Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, everybody. I am your host, Russell Dobular, here with the poet warrior in the classic sense, Mr. Keaton Weiss.
Hello, everybody. Yes, this is my final show for the time being, in the host's chair, so to speak. I will be sitting in from time to time, and I will be saying hello over the next couple weeks. But yes, this is my last time kind of doing this part of it for the next couple of weeks or so, as we are due to evict a problematic landlord from Amanda's uterus tomorrow. Yes, a problematic tenant. Yes, we were playing bad landlord, and we have to evict a squatter tomorrow. That is Friday the 26th, where we are planning to induce labor.
That's why I always say don't have a baby in New York State, because you got to get a court order to evict. It's a whole thing.
I know. Yeah, it's a complicated, right? Yeah, a lot of red tape to go through and things like that.
If they don't want to get out, it could take you a year.
That's right. That's right. It could take a year to get him out of there. His due date was yesterday, and so you don't want to go too far past the due date. And so the 26th is when we are knocking on the door, and we will be getting him out over the weekend. And so Russ and Tusker will take the reins on Sunday. We do have a patron show tonight, by the way, at 8 p.m. Eastern. So patrons, tune in for that. I'll be sitting in and hanging out for that one, but Russ and Tusker are basically going to do that one themselves, and I'll be logging on for calls and stuff. But that'll be their kind of preview run for Sunday. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So tune in tonight if you're a patron, 8 p.m. Eastern. The link for that will go out this afternoon. So we will keep you guys updated on all of that. Great crowd here to start the show. 810 in the YouTube and Twitter chat, and 599 strong over on Rumble. That's a great start for a morning show. So please, everybody, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button and hit that follow button.
Tuesday, I'll be co-hosting with Gilgamesh.
Yeah, there we go. Yes, exactly.
He'll be coming to do co-hosting duties.
No, we're gonna start that one early.
Yeah, we got to put out the call to people for those.
Yeah.
Tuesday and Thursday next week.
Tuesday and Thursday. That's right. Yes, we should. We should indeed. Which we will take care of. We will get all that squared away. But we do thank you guys all very much for being here this morning. Please hit that like button. Get everybody in here. Work that algorithm in the morning. And we got a full show for you guys. So let's jump right in here. Yesterday was a very dark day in the history of this very dark downfall of this very bad country.
Hey, but before you get into it, somebody says Friday is Jimmy's birthday, so your baby will share a birthday with Mr. Dorr, if that's true.
Well, yeah, that is probably not going to happen. Unfortunately, we should have planned the day early. We could have made that happen. But usually it's gonna take at least a few hours. So we're going into the hospital tomorrow night to start the process. So it will probably be, Saturday or even Sunday. We will see.
Oh, really? It takes that long?
Sometimes. We will see.
I figured lickety split.
Yeah,
No?
right. Well, when you go in for a scheduled C-section, it's an hour or two.
Obviously,
but this is going to be, this will probably be, my guess is Saturday, hopefully Saturday. That would be my guess.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's fun. That's exciting stuff.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. Mazel tov. Yes, we forgot to, hold on, I forgot to set our little, to kill our loop there and get our Dolly Parton. Where's our Dolly Parton here? Where is it? Where do you have it? I can't find it here.
Music is at the top.
Yeah, there we go.
Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition.
There we go. Nice way to start the day. Yesterday was a very dark day in history, where an unrepentant genocidal war criminal was welcomed to the floor of Congress to give a speech. And we're going to get into his speech a bit later. But I think the welcoming itself is a story on its own. Yeah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu enters to a standing ovation to his speech before Congress.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister of the State of Israel.
Lower the volume here. So just remember, as you're watching this, folks, this goes on for a couple of minutes. You pay taxes to this government.
This goes on for an hour.
Well, yes.
The whole
as
speech.
we'll get to. Yeah. No,
I don't use sugar anymore. My doctor says it's bad. I use sweet and low.
Yeah. A lot of ovations here for sure. You pay taxes to this government. You pay taxes to these people. This government forces you to pay taxes to it. If you don't, they'll send you to jail for not paying the salaries of these people lining up to grovel before one of the most heinous people in modern world history. One of the most heinous world leaders in the history of the world. And here they are. Hey, Schumer didn't even give him a handshake there. Gave him a head nod. Yeah. I guess he can't do that.
A lot of the Democrats were trying to split the difference. I think I kept it in. There's a shot where Hakeem Jeffries, like, he doesn't clap, but then he feels like he has to, so he does like a...
Yeah. Well, Hakeem Jeffries is one of the top AIPAC recipients in Congress, obviously.
Yeah, but they know the optics on it, so
of course.
These people are all just scum. Like, when we play his speech, it was so infuriating. I called Keaton. I needed guidance on how much to cut, because we could literally just do the speech, and that would be the show today. There was almost nothing he said that was not infuriating enough to comment on. I mean, right down to the commas. Like, almost everything he said was just unbelievably dishonest. And on a, we'll get into this more when we actually get into the speech. On a aesthetics of it, you could see why he has survived so long in Israeli politics. He's a very good liar and propagandist. Like, the speech was good on its terms of, you're going to go in there and you're going to play on American nationalism and connect that nationalist ethos to the defense of Israel. He did a great job.
Well, that's his job. That's his job, and it worked on this room. Now, a lot of Democrats did boycott the speech, and then some went and sat on their hands. Obviously, you had Rashida Tlaib hold up a sign saying, war criminal. But look at John Fetterman getting all dressed up here. John Fetterman owns a suit after all. So it's not that he doesn't wear a suit. It's just he waits until war criminals come to town, and then he feels like he should dress up for them. No hoodie today.
Then he breaks it out.
Yep. No hoodie for John Fetterman today. There's Kristen Sinema, outgoing now independent senator.
Yeah, she's not running as an independent, right? She's just
no, she's retiring. She's hanging it up. Joe Manchin. Then you have, who's that? Murphy back there, and Warnock sitting down. But Fetterman getting all dressed up. So see, he can dress up. It's just that he has more respect for genocidal war criminals than he does for his own. So there you go, getting all dressed up today. Elon Musk is in the crowd. Standing ovation. Elon Musk was Netanyahu's invited guest, so that's really good. To invite a white South African as your guest when you preside over an apartheid state. Why wouldn't you?
It was also his bottom bitch for a couple weeks in Haifa, right?
That's right. Well, he went there. I mean, obviously, he went over there, flew all around the world. Once he got in trouble with the advertisers, he flew all the way around the world to suck up to Netanyahu, and that scored him an invitation there. So, standing ovation from Elon Musk. This was a good little split screen here. I thought of doing one myself, but thankfully, Asal Rod saved me the trouble here. This kind of says it all. And that goes on for another 12 or 13 seconds, but we're not allowed to show, open flesh wounds bleeding out on YouTube, so I couldn't show you the rest of that. But that's what the rest of that video comprises of: children being treated for open wounds. And so, yeah, this is your government. This is why I'm not an American patriot. This is why I say I'm not a patriot. Oh, how can you say that? How could you not say that? What? I like this place? I'm supposed to like this place? Like, I don't wish harm upon the American people. It's my home. I live here. I like it here. The weather is nice enough, I guess. Although not really. New York, the weather's horrible.
Depends where you live.
Yeah, it's horrible, actually, most of the time.
New York weather?
But this is the country.
Weather's all right.
This is it. This is our country right here. This is who we are. This is what we tolerate. This is what, in many cases, we require of people. That they have this loyalty to this state because of its position in the world geographically. No, these Southern evangelicals do not feel any spiritual connection to the Jewish state. They are aircraft carrier.
Well, they do. It's Jesus bait.
Yeah, but it's backhanded, shall we say? It's backhanded. This is what we do here. This is what we do. We roll out the red carpet, literally a red carpet, off of the airplane, staying at the Watergate Hotel. Hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on security for this man. Comes in there, a standing ovation, as tens of thousands of people already dead. According to the Lancet, it's around 186,000 as a result of direct and indirect cause of the IDF's actions. And yet, that's the ovation that he gets. And you had a decent number of Democrats not attend because they knew what the optics were. Kamala Harris did not attend, but she met with him in private prior to the meeting. Why is he welcome on U.S. soil? Yeah, yep. There is about to be an ICC warrant out for his arrest. If we were party to that, we would have an obligation to arrest this man. Were he to plan this a couple weeks later, as it looks like that warrant will be handed down within a couple days. I think July 27th was what they were planning. But yes, this is a rogue criminal having a red carpet rolled out for him, hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayer money spent on security for him, and a standing ovation. Not just one standing ovation. No. Record for standing ovations for a foreign leader in Congress, 58. Bibi Netanyahu, Israel 2024, breaking his previous record of 28 in 2015. 58 seems to be the number. There were some people saying 50, some people saying 55, but most sources count 58. And so it was at least 50. We know that. So 58 ovations.
And he broke his own record.
Yes. In 56 minutes and 56 seconds. That's the length of the video that Netanyahu tweeted out of his full speech. So more than one standing ovation per minute per minute. So it wasn't just that 2-minute grovel fest at the top. Throughout the speech, they kept standing for this man. So what a shame. What a shame. Brings to mind a quote of mine. Fuck the whole country.
Fuck the country.
Yeah.
Well, if we ever get Thomas Frank back on, we'll play that video. And you could say, so now do you see what I meant?
Yeah, now do you see what I meant?
Do
you gonna argue with me now?
Do you see what I was getting at?
Yeah. You gonna bust my balls now?
Yeah. When you watch that just disgusting display, it really does bring home like nothing else how much we are really not in any different position than peasants in an aristocracy are. What control do you have over this government? What control do you have that is greater than a peasant does over its lords and ladies? Do you think the American people want their tax money going to support this genocidal war on the other side of the world, or in Ukraine for that matter? You think the American people want their tax money going there? For this government, and not just the current, but for a very long time, you want them to spend money, you have to be a foreign power in a war that the defense contractors can make money off of. For the American people, they have nothing. They have nothing. These Republicans do. They're so concerned about the national debt, but there's a blank check for war and armaments. Blank check. I've never heard a Republican say we can't afford all this military presence. You never hear that. We can't afford to be engaged all around the world. It's going to break the budget. You never hear that. You only hear that about Social Security, about Medicare, about proposals for free college. You never hear that about war. It's such a slap in the face. They haven't done anything for the people of East Palestine, Ohio. But all of these countries we're funding, they have universal health care. Ukraine has it.
Yep.
Israel has it.
Israel has it.
We don't have it. Free college. All these countries that we fund their wars, they all have these things that they tell us they can't afford for the American people, even though the cost of those things would be a fraction of what we're spending funding these wars.
Yes. Yeah. Just an absolute disgrace. And this is why I said, as soon as October 7th happened, I said this, you're going to feel like Atticus Finch in the sense that the merits of your argument are not going to matter. When you see Congress just stand and applaud this guy after now 10 months of this, that gives you the impression that your arguments, no matter how convincing, do not matter to these people. They are as bigoted as the jury in To Kill a Mockingbird. That is their level of closed-mindedness about this. Right now, you could say it's racially motivated, which to a certain extent it certainly is, because Israel is itself a white settler state. The whole founding of Israel is obviously just in itself blatantly, patently racist. But whatever it is, in the novel, racism is a hegemonic idea that everyone subscribes to the point where they cannot factor in reasonable arguments because the reason just does not permeate that.
Right.
Whatever it is about Israel, in some cases, yes, it's racism. In some cases, it is militarism. In some cases, in a lot of cases with these congressmen, it is as simple as, in Richie Torres's case, who pays me, right? Whatever that is, there is a wall around these people's minds that you simply cannot break through when it comes to this issue, which is why after 10 months, no matter what everyone has said, no matter what's been done in the streets, in towns and cities across the country, not just big cities, but small cities as well, it just doesn't matter. He comes and he gets a standing ovation. 58 standing ovations anyway in a 50-minute speech, 56-minute speech.
Right, after everything we've seen over the past several months.
Right.
After having the UN's highest court rule that they are in violation of international law just last week.
Yep.
And they are going to stand and applaud them. A lot of people have made the point, because all the anti-woke people have aligned with Israel, that Israel is the wokest state. And when we get into his speech, you can see that, because Israel's whole shtick is to hide behind its identity. its identity as a so-called Jewish state. That's the whole thing. That's why, you can't get into the fact that Kamala Harris was one of the most overzealous prosecutors of black people in the country. But you bring that up, you're a racist, right? That is the whole woke grift. It is a shield against legitimate criticism and legitimate argument. In that sense, Israel is the ultimate woke country. Their whole premise is you can't say anything because Holocaust,
Right.
that the Palestinian people had absolutely nothing to do with.
Right. Exactly. All right, we got more to do on the Netanyahu speech, obviously, much more. But let's take some super chats and Rumble rants here. Amadeus, thank you for the $5. Did you get my post about the Golden Book, children's book about Kamala Harris? She even looks evil on the cover. I posted in a comment last show. I didn't see that. I'll have to Google it.
I did not see that.
We get a ton of comments, so it's easy to miss those. But I will take a look. Thank you, Amadeus. Off my grass. Grats on reading some theory. If media lies about all you cover, why not communism? The West's only real threat. Also, have you talked about the ACP? You mean Hinkle's thing, the American Communist Party? Is that what that stands for?
Yeah, I mean we'd have to really look into it more. Well, as you know, my temporary co-host on Sundays until Keaton gets that kid mowing the lawn.
Yeah, right.
Is going to be Marxist-Leninist, self-proclaimed Marxist-Leninist. And we are probably going to have a Marxist-Leninist guest on Sunday, just by coincidence, actually. Just the flow of events. So stay tuned.
There you go. Pickle the Pirate. Russ, worth bringing on Daniel Davis to talk about Ukraine, riots and strikes among the civilians and breakthroughs by RUF on the line of contact. Nobody in lefty media is talking about it. Thank you, Pickle the Pirate. Appreciate that.
You.
The DNC and their media friend, says Ryan, thanks for the €20, are clearly astroturfing Kamala's popularity. If one looks at her polling in the aggregate for swing states, she's marginally better than Biden. How long can they keep this charade up?
Not long. I think in the next 2 weeks, that narrative is going to collapse. It's the new car thing. Greg Foreman, black conservative, he made a good point that I do agree with. If this is how her polling is doing now, that does not bode well because this is the best it's going to get. This is the moment of the coronation, of the universal media adoration. She should be getting the maximum bump she's going to get right now. And she's doing marginally better than Biden was doing. And given her electoral history, that does not bode well for where she's going to be in a month. Now, some people say that this is why Obama hasn't endorsed. And there was that Post article you sent over. It looks like, at least some inside sources are saying that Biden doesn't believe she can win. And that's why he's not endorsing. He wanted, what was it, Mark Kelly?
Obama. Yeah, well, we're going to do that segment later. So
we're doing it?
We have that, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Right. So, yeah, we will get into all that in due time. Be careful, Dad, with that eviction. Thanks, Kaczynski was saying. Appreciate that very much. Keaton, thank you for the recent Twitter X cooking segments. All the best to your family. Russell, happy birthday to you. Me too, coming in August. Oh, look, Cool Blue remembered your birthday. That's nice.
Oh, that's nice of you. Oh, yeah, it's in like a couple of weeks, yeah.
Couple weeks, that's right. August 7th. Thank you, and happy birthday to you, Cool Blue, in August as well. Okay. I'll have a cone for you, Keaton. Thank you, old stoner. Appreciate that. This country more and more disgusts me to the core. America is a murderous and immoral empire. Congress is a den of sociopaths and narcissists. Yes, Eric Rousseau says YouTube is censorious with the super chats. Is that
Are
we
they?
Put that over there? Are they? Yeah, we've heard rumblings to that effect. No pun intended. Good morning, gents. Love it when you have a morning show. Thank you, Pablo Diablo.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. We like the morning shows as well. Okay. Let's move on. All right. So we just talked about Benjamin Netanyahu's ovation, both his ovation at the beginning of the speech as after his introduction, and a record, apparently, 58 ovations throughout the speech. But now we're going to look at the speech itself. So, Russell, why don't you go ahead?
All right. Yeah. This speech is disgusting, just absolutely disgusting. The reactions to it aside. But it's skillfully executed. It definitely gave me more insight into how he has survived politically in Israel for as long as he has. So we'll be stopping and going. Let's take a look.
This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization. For the forces of civilization to triumph, America and Israel must stand together. And these monsters.
All right. So he, throughout the speech, really casts the world in this vision of the world as being Iran and the Muslim forces versus Western civilization. So although he opens it up, this is a clash between civilization and barbarism. Okay, not really. The way he frames it in most of the speech, he very clearly presents it as a modern day crusade against the forces of wrong-headed Islamism. And he does make a point throughout of peppering in reference to the good Arabs, the Apollos versus the Mr. T's. Iran is the Mr. T in his Rocky III vision of the Arab world. But this is why all the intellectual dark web people are Zionists, because that's their jam, right?
Yeah,
it's Western civilization,
Western superiority, yeah.
Yes, versus the Islamic world. One thing you definitely find as you get real woke, not the fake shit they talk about woke, as you actually enlightened your mind. So much of what we're led to believe about how the world works is so cartoonish. When you really dig into different people's cultures and civilizations, even if you don't agree with their governing style or their economic arrangements, you don't find a lot of cartoon villains like Idi Amin. That guy was genuinely villainous. You don't find a lot of that. You find a lot of different cultures trying different ways to do the best they can with what they have for their people. And that is, I have found, true of the Islamic world as well. And there are a lot of things in the Islamic world that are extremely illiberal, but that's between them and them. And B, if you wanted a more secular Islamic culture, you probably should not have overthrown all their democratically elected leaders back in the 50s and installed autocrats. That didn't really help them to move in a secularized direction. Anything, Keaton?
Well, I mean, as the speech goes on, one of the things I noticed is this sort of inconsistency where he will, on the one hand, talk about his concern for civilians, yet on the other hand, constantly comparing what he describes here as civilization versus barbarism, but constantly throwing in the dig. Hey, if you're gay in Gaza, so you are impugning their society,
right?
While at the same time feigning concern for the innocents within the society, tens of thousands of which you have killed.
Right, and he gets into I don't know if I included it. Having to I don't think I did. Having to educate a new generation of Palestinians not to hate the Jews, and that's something else he does that is really the core of how Zionism functions. Throughout the speech, he usually does not say Israelis. He doesn't say treaty with Israelis. He says treaty with Jews.
Right.
Conflating Israel and Judaism as one thing in the public mind, which is quite conscious. Because as I said, this is a very effective, very intelligently constructed piece of propaganda. No word is there by accident.
They raped women, they beheaded men, they burnt babies alive, they killed parents in front of their children, and children in front of their parents.
Okay, so we are not saying that there were no atrocities committed on October 7th. But what he's saying there has no evidence behind it. and much of it has been debunked. There is no evidence, in spite of best efforts, certainly, to uncover it, of the rapes of which he speaks, the beheadings of which he speaks. The burning babies alive has been completely debunked, not even a point of debate. But it doesn't matter. There's nobody in this room who's looking for the truth. This is a room full of people looking for justification for continuing to support a genocide, and he's providing it to them. He knows he can lie with impunity, and nobody's going to really challenge him. Anything, Keaton?
Nope, go ahead.
Biden and I have known each other for over 40 years. I want to thank him for half a century of friendship to Israel and for being, as he says, a proud Zionist. Actually, he says a proud Irish-American Zionist.
This is where, in regards to Israel, you have no choices. Later on, he praises Donald Trump. It does. We live in a democracy. Where do I go to vote against this? Where do I go to vote against this? Who do I vote for? Now, people are going to say Jill Stein. All right. Well, we know Jill Stein's chance. I have a better chance of winning this election than Jill Stein does. So, in terms of, and I'm not saying you want to support Jill Stein, go ahead. I am just saying, in terms of realistic electoral options, where do you go to vote against this? No place.
Nowhere.
All right. So this gets. This is one of the most stunning pieces of tokenizing I think I've ever seen. And as an American, that's saying something, because we do love us our tokens.
Proud Irish-American Zionists. Michael is an officer in the Israeli paratroopers. His family immigrated to Israel from Ethiopia. Another Israeli is with us here today, and he's stand up right next to Avichal. This is Master Sergeant Ashraf al-Bakhiri.
Wow. Look at how diverse the IDF is. I had no idea how diverse it was. You know what? Let's take a look at the IDF webpage to see all that diversity in action. Look at all those people who look like the soldiers that he stuck in the gallery there. Oh, hang on. None of them look like that. That's weird. Because 50% of the soldiers that he presented, he has two others that are white boys, but 50% Arab. Wait, look at, do you see that on the IDF webpage? Do you see people who look like that on the IDF webpage? Wow, I'm scrolling down. Where are all these Arabs in the IDF? 50% of the, oh, look at this. You got like the Dr. No Bond girl here. But I don't see too many Arabs. So now I did try to look into this, and because Israel is so sensitive about the subject of ethnicities to the degree that it is illegal to get a DNA test in Israel. In my opinion, they're afraid of what you might find about the origins of the people who claim to be descended from that land. I think that's pretty obvious. You need a court order, like in cases of paternity, to get that. But the BBC did do an article about this, about Arabs. So of the 20% some odd of Israelis that are Arab, about 1% actually serve in the Israeli army. But this is interesting. So why do they serve? Some Israeli Arab politicians accuse the government of bribery. Quote, Israel is after people to serve in the army who are poor and have no work, says Hanin Zoabi. 52 to 54% of our Palestinian people in Israel are under the poverty line. And the government's policy of creating poverty obliges people to look for the only solution they can. The peace process is not going anywhere, it seems. The two-state solution is still a distant prospect. So many young Arabs see integration into the Israeli military as their future. Quote, 10 people from my town are serving in the army now. I have friends who want to enlist. I encourage everyone to join to improve his or her life and work to their future. So basically, they're in a position, the very few who actually do it, because not a lot of people do, they're in a position where, hey, man, if you don't want them to be suspicious of you, if you want to be able to build a career, if you want some financial security in an apartheid state, show that you're with the regime. And even so, only 1% of the 20% actually go ahead with that. Arabs are actually not under universal conscription, so it's up to them to join, unlike Israelis, Druze, and Circadians, I think they're called, are also under universal conscription. Anything, Keaton?
Well, I mean, just the blatant, just comical tokenizing of those two guys is to show, I mean, he's here in America. How do you make the case to Americans that the moral thing to do is to support Israel? Paint Israel in as American a light as you possibly can. Hey, look, everybody has a chance in Israel.
It is.
Yeah, look how we elevate, people of different, colors and backgrounds here. Right, so there's it's no coincidence at all that those were the two he featured there.
Sure. Well, you had Indians serving in the British Army under the Raj. Does that mean it was not an apartheid regime?
Right.
But this is what he's trying to convey. Well, how could we be settlers?
Right.
Look at these Arabs who fight for the IDF.
Yep.
You're always going to get that in a situation where the only path to financial and social security and advancement for your family is to collaborate with the occupier. That always happens in these circumstances. To continue.
If the state of Israel had not been established after the Holocaust, the image engraved in our collective memory would have been the photograph of that helpless Jewish boy in the Warsaw Ghetto holding his hands up in the air with Nazi rifles pointed at him. But because of the birth of Israel, Yechiel continued, because of the courage of soldiers like my son Moshe, the Jewish people are no longer helpless in the face of our enemies.
All right, so this was another element of the speech. It was a lot of disgusting grief farming, where he would throw people up into the gallery whose children were hostages or whose children had been killed. So in this case, that was a letter written by the father of a fallen IDF soldier who he has in the gallery being applauded, which I found particularly grotesque. But if you look at the nature of that letter, it is the Sam Peckinpah rationale for the existence of Israel. It is very much the redemption of the Jewish people through the spilling of blood. That is the core theme. We reclaimed our manhood by slaughtering others and by maintaining our foothold in this land against all comers. We have redeemed the manhood that we lost, not only in the Holocaust, but in centuries of pogroms and oppression. Israel is our reclamation of our manhood.
Yes, and that's why they don't like Jews like Russell and I, or like Larry David, or like Woody Allen. They don't like the self-deprecating, sarcastic Jews because they see us as weak. They actually call us Holocaust Jews. That's actually a name they use for us. Holocaust Jews, meaning victim Jews. Jews who, somehow fetishize our victimhood, right? And sort of play that up as, in the cases I just mentioned, a public persona, but just generally that personality type, which a lot of American Jews, especially New York Jews, have become known for. They have a disdain for that. That's why they're not funny. That's why Israelis and Zionists are not funny, because they have contempt for vulnerability. You can't be funny if you have contempt for vulnerability. The root of comedy is vulnerability, is irony. It's a willingness to laugh at yourself. They have none of that.
Yeah, they see that as a result of Jews having been overly urbanized over centuries. And hey, look, there's some truth to the fact that centuries of urbanization have created a group of people that are, uh, have lost those skills of the land, skills of navigation, right? Look at a map. I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of hunting, fishing Jews and that is because of that, because they're very urbanized. So the kinds of skills you need to survive in urban culture, which is one of the reasons I think Jews have thrived in the modern era, because their emphasis was on those skills before the world was so urbanized. So once the world became so urbanized, they already had a lot of the skills of urban life. It wasn't as hard, I think, a transition for a lot of Jews as it was for other populations that came in from the countryside into the urban areas. But yeah, when you encounter Jews from other parts of the world, Australia, Europe, there's definitely a commonality coming out of that urban experience. Israelis have a completely different vibe. Right. They are completely different. They don't even eat the same stuff because they've been in the Middle East. Like, they've adopted that diet. Like, they're not, yeah. But it is also, it's to the degree that there's clearly a contempt for it. They don't even want a chicken soup, right? Because it reminds them of the days in Ukraine. They to that extent, give me a bowl of dates.
Right.
They call Israel a colonialist state. Don't they know that the land of Israel is where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob prayed, where Isaiah and Jeremiah preached, and where David and Solomon ruled?
Yeah.
This piece of shit is sitting on his hands, and then he realizes, oh, I guess I should say something. Yeah, this is what I mean. These New York politicians, these liberals. I mean, in most cases, like Richie Torres is a liberal, Hakeem Jeffries is a liberal. They know this is full of shit. They're just paid. They are just the lowest people you could imagine.
You can see in his eyes his skepticism of what he's saying, as he should be, because if you look at this, and let's listen to it again, there's a little bit more of it. This really gives up the whole game, what he's saying here.
And Jacob prayed, where Isaiah and Jeremiah preached, and where David and Solomon ruled. For nearly 4,000 years, the land of Israel has been the homeland of the Jewish people. It's always been our home. It will always be our home. The prosecutor...
Okay, so if a Christian went up there and said, this land is our land because God gave it to us, and this is where Jesus walked... oh my God, the liberal media would go insane. These people are theocrats. Well, his claim here is inherently a religious one. He's talking about these mythical figures, Isaac and Abraham, who there's no evidence these people existed. He might as well invoke Odin and Thor. He's saying that because this was the land of Isaac and Abraham and Jeremiah, this land belongs to the Jewish people. It is not a historical claim. It is an inherently religious, biblical claim to that land. That is what this is based on. Now, him saying this is the homeland of the Jewish people because they were there, by the 18th century, 2% of the population of Palestine was Jewish. Now, I don't have stats on it, but I bet you in the 18th century, 2% of the population of Palestine would have been Greek at that point.
Right.
And if you want to talk about historical claims, the Greeks were there. They incorporated that into their empire at one point. So do the Greeks have a claim? Not to mention the Romans having a claim. That's a prime piece of real estate because of its location. A lot of different peoples have passed through there and colonized it over 3 millennia. Do they all have a claim? Because many people called that area their homeland over time. What makes the Jewish claim unique is the biblical claim. That is the only thing that distinguishes the claim from a claim the Greeks might have to that homeland.
Right. Go ahead.
Of the International Criminal Court has shamefully accused Israel of deliberately starving the people of Gaza. This is utter, complete nonsense. It's a complete fabrication. Israel has enabled more than 40,000 aid trucks to enter Gaza. That's 500,000 tons of food. And that's more than 3,000 calories for every man, woman, and child in Gaza.
Okay. Certainly covering this since October 7th. There is a lot of video evidence, a lot of journalism about the Israelis and the IDF blocking aid to Gaza. You should also look at what he just said. 3,000 calories for every man, woman, and child. Well, this has been going on since October 7th. 3,000 calories is about 2 days worth of food for a grown man, maybe 3 days for a woman, maybe 6 days for a child, since October 7th. So you just kind of conceded that you're starving these people to death. I mean, he's not really conceding it because he's not taking responsibility. In the next line, he blames it on Hamas.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of thing that RFK would say. That's the kind of like number RFK would say. We've given him 3,000 calories per kid. You know what I mean? citing some number that makes you look, like you know what you're talking about when you don't. Yeah, the average adult takes in 2,000 calories a day
2,000,
here.
Yeah, I'm being generous.
Here in the fat and cozy West. But yes, you need over 1,000 calories a day to live. So 3,000 calories per person over a course of 10 months. Yeah, that's starvation.
Yeah, exactly.
If there are Palestinians in Gaza who aren't getting enough food, it's not because Israel is blocking it. It's because Hamas is stealing it.
And this is very typical of the entire speech. Where's the evidence? The evidence? Again, the Western press would love that story if there were a shred of evidence. They would love the story. Hamas running off with food aid, caught by journalists, caught on camera. Where is that? And this is what Israel does. This is why when you talk to Zionists, they're in another world. Hamas are these cartoon villains. Arabs in general. Anyone who opposes Israel is just a crazy, devious person who's just motivated by evil, like something in a Disney cartoon.
Right.
They're just evil. Just don't let them eat. Get the food. That's how all this works.
The ICC prosecutor accuses Israel of deliberately targeting civilians. What in God's green earth is he talking about? The IDF has dropped millions of flyers, sent millions of text messages, made hundreds of thousands of phone calls to get Palestinian civilians out of harm's way. But at the same time, Hamas does everything in its power to put Palestinian civilians in harm's way. They fire rockets from schools, from hospitals, from mosques. They even shoot their own people when they try to leave the war zone.
Okay, so this is something you hear a lot from Zionists. And it's very much in the same spirit as blaming Hamas for the starvation, right? We're trying to help the civilians. It's the Hamas. I remember hearing this as a kid about the PLO. They used to say the PLO did that. Where's the evidence? Where is it? Again, the Western press would love that story. By nature of our job and by nature of our temperament, we're news junkies. If that story were out there, we'd have seen it. If there were some credible reporting supporting this, we'd have seen it. This is what Israel does. They just make these outrageous claims expect people to accept them on their face, which they usually do. Part of the problem they're having is the images coming out of Gaza are so horrific, so clearly genocidal, that the press for the first time in 76 years is starting to ask a few questions about these claims, and they don't hold up under the slightest scrutiny.
Right. Yeah. And what's also interesting, we're going to do a piece on the Lavender AI later. But, this has been known for a while for people who know this issue for a long time, is that Israel targets supposed combatants when they are at home with their families in order to maximize carnage. Okay. Right. So they are guilty of that as well. So anyway, we can go ahead. But anyway.
Yeah.
The war in Gaza has one of the lowest ratios of combatants to non-combatants casualties in the history of urban warfare. And you want to know where it's lowest in Gaza? It's lowest in Rafah.
Yeah, so me and Keith, because I'm taking over, we've been having some conversations about not being too loose with my mouth regarding YouTube standards. This is a hard piece for me not to violate those standards watching. It is just so fucking infuriating. And he does, throughout this speech, he invokes people that he talked to as evidence. So right before he says that, he talks about a guy at West Point who's an expert in urban warfare, who told him that the way that Israel is waging this war is unique in the history of urban warfare for its protection of civilians.
Well, he talked in Rafah outside of. He says, "I talked to one of my generals."
I talked to one of my generals.
How many civilians? He said, "Practically none."
Practically none.
Yeah.
Practically none.
Yeah.
It is just unbelievable, and it's very typical of Israel. I'm sure if you pushed them on that, and you gave them the numbers of people killed, what are they going to say? 80% of those are Hamas.
Right. Yeah.
What about the children? Yep. Well, you're going with the Gaza Ministry's numbers.
Right.
There aren't nearly that many children killed. I think 6 or 7.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll have to say, they always have some answer. Go ahead.
They always have an answer.
Today, the heroic soldiers of Israel should not be condemned for how they're conducting the war in Gaza. They should be commended for it. The ICC is trying to shackle Israel's hands and prevent us from defending ourselves. And if Israel's hands are tied, America is next. And I'll tell you what else is next. The ability of all democracies to fight terrorism will be imperiled. That's what's on the line. So let me assure you, the hands of the Jewish state will never be shackled. Israel will always defend itself. Ask yourself, which country ultimately stands in the way of Iran's maniacal plans to impose radical Islam on the world? And the answer is clear. It's America, the guardian of Western civilization and the world's greatest power.
All right, so that's very typical of the formulation, and this is part of what I mean by it's a very skillfully constructed and executed speech. He really spent the final third of it or so, and it's peppered throughout, but he really emphasized in the final third, we're in this together. And while he opened the speech claiming this is not a clash of civilizations, he spends a lot of time describing what is clearly a clash of civilizations in which we are the good guys and Iran and its allies are the bad guys. And you have to stand with Israel because we're taking the incoming for you. If it wasn't for Israel, you'd have to have boots on the ground. You would have to have intelligence assets here that you don't have to have because you can rely on our intelligence services. He paints a very clear and vivid and explicit picture of what RFK said. We're your aircraft carrier. We're your aircraft carrier. You have to stay with us because we're going to stick with you, and we're in this together. Let's mess up these crazy Muslims.
Well, this is why this is why I say it's racism, it's fascism. It's you like the way you live, right? Okay, you want to keep living the way you live? Well, these people are a threat to the way you live.
Right.
And so we have to do with them whatever is necessary to protect our way of life because they're going to steal it from us. And for a lot of people, that's as far as their understanding goes, and that's as far as it has to go because people are very, very tribal in that sense. Well, if Israel represents, democracy, and I don't even think the average American really conceptualizes it that way. I think Israel represents modernity to them, right? And so, it's 21st century, right? They have Instagram in Israel. They have social media in Israel. Not that they don't have it in Gaza, where you think these things come from, right? Where you think these videos come from. But they don't see it that way. They don't see it that way because people like Netanyahu and our leaders, who are basically water carriers for him on this issue, don't paint it that way, right? They see this is between civilization and barbarism. If it were such a barbaric society, first of all, when you see Palestinians in these videos, they're dressed in like Nike shirt, like they're actually very modernized. Number one, number two, where do you think this footage comes from? It's posted on social media. It's not this throwback hellhole, but that's how they paint it, and that's why they're able to get away with this because they are very much making a pitch to people's feeling of if you like how you live, you have to protect how you live from these people who want to take your way of life from you. That's what George W. Bush said after 9/11. At the other side of his mouth, he said this isn't a war on Islam. But really, what is he saying? He's saying they hate our way of life. Okay, well, then it is. It's a war on Muslim society, which is how that war functioned, obviously.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. And invoking this idea. Iran wants to spread a worldwide revolution. Okay. Yeah. If you look at the religious texts of a vision of a world united under Islam, you got the same thing in Christianity. You have the same vision. You could very easily say, you know what these Christians believe? Jesus is going to return and all the non-Christians are going to be thrown into the pits of hell if they don't convert. They want to see a world where everybody is converted to Christianity and they think you're going to hell if you're not. You could make the same exact argument about Christianity, but of course they won't.
Right.
Yet in the heart of the Middle East, standing in Iran's way, is one proud pro-American democracy, my country, the state of Israel.
Fetterman does not want to get up again.
He's getting a lot of exercise today.
Yeah.
The day after we defeat Hamas, a new Gaza can emerge. My vision for that day is of a demilitarized and de-radicalized Gaza. Israel does not seek to resettle Gaza, but for the foreseeable future, we must retain overriding security control there to prevent the resurgence of terror, to ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. Gaza should have a civilian administration run by Palestinians who do not seek to destroy Israel. That's not too much to ask. It's a fundamental thing that we have a right to demand and to receive. I also want to thank President Trump.
All right. So this is the core of the Zionist grievance politics in a nutshell. These people in Gaza have no legitimate basis for resistance. They have no legitimate reason to hate the Israeli state and what it's done to them. They are poorly educated. Unlike Trump, he does not love the poorly educated. They're poorly educated. They've been taught by their culture, by their sick, warped culture, to hate not Israelis, Jews. They never say to hate Israelis. They say to hate Jews. It is victim blaming on an inconceivable scale. These people came, they stole your home, they almost certainly killed relatives of yours, perhaps immediate family members of yours. They penned you into an open-air prison where they won't let you fish your own waters and won't let you govern your own affairs, which, he's painting a very nice picture of this going back to the status quo, only in a bombed-out moonscape after this war. And that's best-case scenario for the Palestinians. In spite of what he's saying, I think reports that they're salivating at the prospect of putting beachside property there are probably closer to the reality of what will happen in Gaza when this is over, or what they'd like to see happen. But even so, what he's describing is going back to the status quo, where they just occupy Gaza. If they don't actually put settlements there, they're going to control a perimeter. And you get to have some meaningless local elections with a civilian government that has no actual authority other than maybe to patch up some of the damage that the Israeli forces did. But when Zionists hear this all sounds very reasonable. This all sounds very, yes, those people are crazy, and hey, we're trying to help you. Let us help you.
Well, this just shows that they are not, they are firmly ideologically opposed to a two-state solution. This is why talk of a two-state solution.
They said that. They just
nonsense.
voted against it. The Liberal Party just voted against it in the Knesset.
Well, this says it right there. This says it right there. We have a right to control their politics, right? We want to make sure that the people in power do not hate Israel. We want it demilitarized. Well, a state has a right to a military, so a demilitarized Gaza is not a sovereign Gaza, obviously.
Right.
Obviously. Right. Now, if you don't want to be attacked, that's certainly reasonable to not want to be attacked. But this is where diplomacy comes into play. Like you have to treat them in a way that makes them not want to attack you. That's the way states interact. But they don't see them as a state. They don't see them as a state. They see it as their property. They get to occupy that territory. And if it is to run with a degree of autonomy, it is autonomy granted on Israel's terms, which is no autonomy at all.
Right. At one point, he actually makes the comparison to denazification at the end of World War II and how it led to prosperity and peace between both countries. Well, the difference is, well, for one thing, we didn't really denazify. We just brought the Nazis here and integrated them into the intelligence services of various countries over there. But even conceding that point, then we left.
Right.
Then we left. Germany is not an occupied country. Japan is not an occupied country. We were there for a few years and we left. But you're against that. And you're not even describing that here. So that is not a comparison.
Right.
Finish up. Gives a little praise to our illustrious once and future president.
It's a fundamental thing that we have a right to demand and to receive. I also want to thank President Trump for all the things he did for Israel, from recognizing Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights, to confronting Iran's aggression, to recognizing Jerusalem as our capital and moving the American embassy there. Jerusalem, our eternal capital, never to be divided again.
So, yeah, his solution is a world where you basically go back to the pre-October 7th status quo forever. Forever. These people just live under Israeli occupation forever. And if they ever get snippy about it, they're terrorists.
Yeah, and that's really not what his ultimate goal is. That's his goal as stated here. But they obviously just want to drive them out completely and claim it so that they don't have this problem anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They want to drive them to Egypt, into Jordan.
Right. And a big shout out to Donald Trump there for being his loyal butt boy. Yeah. So anyone, I know we have a lot of MAGA friends. That's your boy there. That's your boy. Your boy is Netanyahu's bitch, just like everybody else. Just like everybody else in the political class. When Netanyahu calls, Donald Trump takes down his zipper, just like all the rest of them. He's no tougher. He's no better. He's no more independent. He's Israel's bitch, just like everybody else. That's right. There we go. All right, we'll take some super chats and some rumble rants and move on here. Congrats. When my last child was born, the delivery happened within an hour of induction with Pitocin. Best wishes that everything goes smoothly. Thank you, Lance. Appreciate that very much. Appreciate that. Where does the Fetterman Ree sound come from? That's Putting on the Ritz in Young Frankenstein. Yes. It's from that movie. Ratko Mladic is locked up, rolling his eyes. Thank you, Perry Anderson. Gonna miss your rants, Keaton. Good luck tomorrow. Thank you very much, Richard. Appreciate that. Whose speech told more lies, POTUS or Red Ritter Bibi? Netanyahu. But the Biden thing was so unremarkable. I mean, it was not. I mean, it was barely even worth covering. We're going to cover that a little bit on the Patreon show later, because the CNN panel reaction was actually better than the speech itself. The phrase "shithole country" comes to mind. Yes, it does, Mark. Thank you very much. I was expected to be born on July 25th. I came out on August 8th. Don't interfere with baby's plans to be an August Leo rather than a lowly July Leo. That's right. He could be a July Leo. I didn't think about that. T-shirt me, please. I need to represent. Thanks, Henry. I tried to. Like I said, I think I'm going to. I think we're going to switch merch, people. After the baby comes, it's going to be one of my.
We had an exception from the woman who did the scumbag douchebag tote bag, who's helping out with one of the Star Wars graphics now. The one she recommended is the one RBN uses.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe we could do that. All right, yeah. That's an idea. I'll have to look into that, because that might be a good alternative. Benjamin Netanyahu makes me want to vomit. Thank you, Michael Castillo. Appreciate that. Wasim Garani, Bibi's son, is hiding in Miami and not in the IDF. That's right. He has a son who lives here. Pete Sweets here. Netanyahu's speech. This is when it would have been appropriate for a member of Congress to yell out, "You lie." At least one squad member should have gone full tilt Jose Vega. Yeah, that would have been funny.
I look, credit where credit is due. Talib showed a little spine.
Oh, yeah.
As a Palestinian, that's the 1 inch of her soul she will not give away.
Yeah, and she didn't boycott it like most of them. She went there and held the sign up. So yes, good on her for that.
I mean, they all should have done that if they really wanted to make a statement.
Right? Yeah, they all should have gone. Exactly. Wasim Garani, some scripture said Abraham came from modern day Iraq. This guy argued with the Pope that Jesus spoke Hebrew when Pope said no, he spoke Aramaic.
Is that true?
Is that true?
That's interesting.
That would have been funny. I can imagine being a fly on the wall in that room. It's hilarious watching the DNC attempting to polish a turd. Thank you, because 67. I don't think Kamala will last until Iowa. America will remember why no one likes her. Well, she's past Iowa. This is the general election now, so she's in.
Yeah, we're going to cover that a little bit on the Patreon show tonight. There was a funny CNN panel where a Republican just called out the elephant in the room, that this was a bloodless coup, that Kamala is really not a democratically elected candidate, not even in the farcical sense of a normal Democratic primary. She's an installed candidate. As we were saying before, I think this is the best moment she's going to have. It's all downhill from here. Kamala, very, very much like Hillary, does not improve her image with exposure.
Yeah, that is going to be something to watch for sure, and especially
the more
at the
people see her, the less they like her.
On more positive news, Kimberly Cheadle was once head of security of PepsiCo. I thank her for the lifetime of supply of 7-Up I stole over the years from the warehouse. Took some 7-Up, jacked some 7-Up from the job site there, Kenman G. Let's see here. My dad also read a book by a Jewish archaeologist, claimed proof that Jewish biblical land evidence is actually Yemen and not Palestine. Good luck with the Houthis. Thank you, Wasim. Bibi's manipulation tactics aren't even persuasive. Thank you, Baby Ethernet. Appreciate that. When angry, remember the empire is falling. I do. Yes, I do. Indeed. I have mutuals who keep yelling about Trump being Hitler, thanks to the $5, yet couldn't speak on the evil that spoke to America yesterday. People are lost. Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
All right, so now that I'm almost
the actual modern day Hitler shows up. Yeah.
Now that I am pretty much done with the Star Wars thing, I want to turn to shitpost. So Joy Reid has been doing a week-long Project 2025 thing that has a lot of libs all a titter. I see them all posting. That's what reminded me of. Literally, Trump is going to turn this country into something worse than China and Russia. He's the real Hitler. I'm thinking about doing a shit post on this because it's amazing. Like, it is really like saying, yeah, Center for American Progress wrote a white paper. That's policy. Not only that, and this is the most glaring absurdity at the core of this whole hysteria about Project 2025. If presidents can just go by fiat and institute their whole agenda, why hasn't anyone done that yet? If there are no court challenges to deal with, none of that, like why hasn't a president ever done that? Just gone in and whatever white paper their affiliated think tanks wrote, well, that's it. I'm waving my scepter and it's all going to get
they
passed.
all have such reverence for our democratic system that they just didn't want to, including Trump the first time, apparently.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe
Nixon,
he was too stupid.
He was a big lover of the checks and balances.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go. JM, thanks for the $2. Appreciate that. Great work, fellas. Thanks, Sparky. Keep on trucking. Appreciate you very much. Chris H., countries like the UK and Australia are better friends to the U.S. than Israel will ever be. Israel will never follow the U.S. into conflict. Thank you, Chris H. Appreciate that. All right, we got one more piece on the Netanyahu speech, and then we got some other material for you guys today. Plenty of show left. Hit that like button, please. Hit that follow button over on Rumble. Hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. So, Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress was met with protests. Thousands of protesters are currently starting marching in D.C. towards the Capitol to protest Netanyahu's visit to Congress today, while police are seeming to try to stop the march. So here's a little footage embedded in this tweet. So quite the crowd there. Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate were there. They did a live stream from the protest itself, so that was cool. Good on them for being there. The Party for Socialism and Liberation was there. We spoke with some of the protesters who traveled from all across the country to be in D.C. to protest war criminal Netanyahu's address to Congress. The movement in solidarity with Palestine is here to stay. Here's some of their footage.
Outside the Capitol, We're here outside the Capitol, where thousands and thousands of people from all across the country are gathering to protest against Netanyahu's visit to Congress. We spoke to a few people about why they felt the need to come out here today.
I'm here from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm here to serve a arrest warrant for Netanyahu, and I'm here to support the Palestinian people and say shame to our politicians who allowed this murderous guy to come in the first place, to listen to him, to give him the space.
I'm coming from Boston. My name is Parul. I'm a software engineer. I'm part of the Outfit Workers Union. I came here to protest Netanyahu's visit. I think it's disgusting that Congress has invited him to speak. And I think it's disgusting that 9 months in, the United States is still funding this genocide, still funding the killing of children, women, men, all people in Gaza, and the violence in Palestine more broadly.
You know, this is just a sad day in U.S. history. Somebody like Netanyahu shouldn't be speaking to Congress whatsoever. The ICC is looking for him for an arrest warrant. It looks like the IC4J is going to come out with a verdict, most likely of genocide, under his leadership. Somebody like that just does not belong in Congress. That's the bare minimum what we need to say here.
So, good work there. Thousands gather in Washington, D.C. to protest against Israeli PM Netanyahu's visit to the U.S. Congress. In pictures is Al Jazeera. They posted some great photos here. There you see some UAW workers there. We know that 7 unions endorsed this rally in the days leading up to it, and so that led to a considerable labor presence there, which is good to see. That's just a very good photograph there, whoever took that. A nice work, Al Jazeera. Okay, this was just funny. I had to take, this was one of the right-wing trolls here who you could tell, they just don't even understand what protest is. Graham Allen protesters were literally bussed in to cause mayhem and outrage in Washington, D.C. They were bussed in.
From Iran!
And I had to respond to this. The Post-Millennial posted this video as if it was something, as if they caught, because the only person who could rent a bus is George Soros. Nobody else ever rents buses. Oh, that must be Soros busting them in. So I just had to respond to this. I said, hey, moron, did you know that organizations sometimes rent buses to go places as a group? Why do you think buses exist? Yeah, why do you think buses are a thing? Like, when a group of people wants to go to the same place, they figure rather than have us drive 20 different cars to the same place, we'll rent a bus and go there. I just love how this guy thought he was really exposing something. Thought it was a big scoop that buses of protesters were coming in. What a fucking imbecile.
Well, I mean, this is what they do. This is what they do because they know most people don't understand the nuts and bolts in that way, so they can just say anything and make it look nefarious.
Exactly. Most people don't really know organizing or protesting or anything like that. So, they didn't even drive their cars there. They took buses. Something must be going on there.
I bet you Iran paid for that.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go. Joined over 400 Jewish activists, says Sharman Hussein, and allies to protest Israeli butcher-in-chief Netanyahu's visit to D.C. this week with Jewish Voice for Peace. We must not only reject this speech, but demand an immediate arms embargo and an end to all U.S. aid to Israel. So here are Jewish activists here. Jews to Biden, stop arming Israel. And for that, some of them were arrested for occupying that space. So here's some anti-Semitic state violence. But they weren't the only Jews there. You had these guys here, Zionism and Judaism.
They call those O'Leary masks now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. The O'Leary masks, right. Hiding from the AI. Here's some more Orthodox Jews here. Zionism and Judaism are diametrically opposed. Judaism is godly and compassionate. Zionism, godless and merciless. That's a good sign. And here's, of course, inside the hall, Benjamin Netanyahu basically smearing these protesters as agents of Iran. So here's a split screen here.
Iran is funding the anti-Israel protests that are going on right now outside this building. Not that many, but they're there, and throughout the city. Well, I have a message for these protesters. When the tyrants of Tehran, who hang gays from cranes and murder women for not covering their hair, are praising, promoting, and funding you, you have officially become Iran's useful idiots.
Useful idiots. Shout out to Hotspot for that split screen video there. The useful idiots
honestly,
of Iran.
After hearing that, I feel like an idiot because I haven't gotten any of that money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've not gotten any of it.
Why didn't I get the bank account code?
Yeah. First of all, not that many of them. I don't know. That looks like quite a few to me. Looks like a pretty big march to me. And that was only one section of it, obviously. You had a lot of different offshoots with different stages and different sort of events within the larger rally. We plugged one a couple days ago, the labor union event. And so it was a pretty impressive turnout there, despite Netanyahu's downplaying of the crowd size and smearing everybody there as an agent of Iran. So shout out to everybody who made it out there yesterday.
Yeah, and he said, did Jose get down there? I didn't see any video.
I didn't see any
video. Did
video.
they get down there? Because I was, if this one weren't having a baby, I was going to go with them.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Yeah.
Like, I might have had to put together the show today. So
right.
if he decided to make a break for it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Before the marshals come.
It is true, though. I didn't see any video of Jose. We'll have to ask
I haven't
him.
seen any video of that. Maybe they weren't able to get into D.C. The traffic could have been insane with all that going on. But I don't know. At another point in the speech, he says, and this is what you come to realize the more you really dig into Israel. They just say shit. They just say shit. Yes, our intelligence shows that Iran is funding protests to create chaos in the United States. Okay, so where's the evidence? Where's the evidence of what you're claiming? Because Lord knows they'd love to fund us, and we haven't been approached.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We have not been approached. We are doing this the mom and pop style.
If I find out you motherfuckers are getting paid by Iran and you didn't tell me, I'm going to be pissed.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, that's a lot of bodies. That's a lot of people to have to get paid. And according to what was the guy, Graham Allen? Yeah, apparently you can't rent a bus without help. Apparently, the Shah of Iran and George Soros. Those are the only two, right?
Yeah,
the Ayatollah and George Soros, right? Yeah. So thank you to everybody who made it out there yesterday. It was a good turnout, and it was a very, very peaceful gathering. My dad was there yesterday, and he plans on calling into the patron show tonight because, of course, what did they do? They say, oh, they were rabble-rousing, they were burning flags and things like that. They always pick up conflicts with police. You know, it's the same thing with every protest I've ever been to. You go to the protest itself, a protest that's huge like that, it's almost always peaceful, easy. It's chill. It's actually a very relaxed environment there. You know, and then the media will amplify pockets where it gets testy, which it no doubt will if you have a large police presence there. It's going to get testy around the edges, but that's always around the margins. The same thing with Occupy Wall Street. Europeans would bring their kids through the encampment of Occupy Wall Street. It was like a tourist site for Europeans.
Yeah.
There was no tension in the air. Same thing with the Iraq War protests. Same thing with the Free Palestine protests that I've been to. The fact that you have Netanyahu with the microphone inside just able to say, well, there's very few of them out there and they're all agents of Iran. Well, it makes it very easy to smear them. So it was good on everybody for showing up, and please share that stuff as you see it.
Yeah, my experience at these specifically Palestine protests is the people who get out of control are the Zionist counter-protesters, not the Palestine protesters, just like with the Bernie movement, because you know the media is against you. You know the establishment is against you.
Of course, yeah.
You're going to be very careful about how you present on camera, whereas if you're on the side of the establishment, you're a lot freer because you know they won't show that part.
Right. You do whatever you want.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Wassem Ghorani, America supported Wahhabism and helped fuel that extremism, i.e. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, sure, which originates from buddy Saudi Arabia, yes, who in a Russell Peters comedy said that is who the other Arabs blame for making them look crazy. Thank you, Wasim. Appreciate that very much. Okay, folks. So, as you guys know, we have a patron show tonight. We do 2 shows per month exclusively for our Patreon members, paid Substack subscribers, and paid Locals members. So if you want access to that show later, it's very simple. All you got to do is go to patreon.com/DoDissidents and sign up for as little as $5 a month. Your support is what keeps this show going, and we try to make it worth your while by giving you 2 bonus shows per month, which are call-in shows too, so those are interactive streams. You also get your name up in lights here, plus you get call-in access to our weekly Q&As every Sunday night. So that's patreon.com/DoDissidents. You can also go to dodissidents.substack.com to sign up, or you can join our locals. It's dodissidents.locals.com. If you're watching on Rumble right now, you can join our locals by clicking the bright red button underneath the screen. You guys are the backbone of the program. You guys are what make this show work, and you are what give us the ability to do this. So please, if you can, patreon.com/DoDissidents to become a member, access those perks, and unlock the good karma of supporting independent media. That's what we like to say. Sparky, for what it's worth, I read somewhere that Gaza had the highest concentration of PhDs in the world. I did not hear that, but thank you, Sparky.
I haven't heard it. Can't comment.
Can't comment. Is this a speech in the U.S. Congress in 24 or a colorized clip of Munich 37?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Unbelievable. Funny thing, Palestinians are very educated and literacy rate is higher than Americans. Any thoughts on the Beijing declaration that got Hamas, Fatah, and others to form unity government?
I sent that over to you. You know what? That could be a good one for the patron show.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, I mean that's quite a contrast there. You've got our entire Congress filleting a war criminal, and at the same exact time, China is trying to make peace between Palestinian factions.
Right. Yes. Yep. Quite the contrast indeed. Yeah. Why don't you do that? I think Tusker.
That's
right up
Tusker's
Tusker's
cover
alley.
with her. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
All
so
right.
do that.
So we'll do that for the patron show.
Do that tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. You guys got a successful pitch that'll be covered this evening. We'll pencil that in.
Your elevator pitch has been accepted.
There you go. I used to think I'd have to learn German to watch people cheering genocidal shit like this without subtitles. There you go. Yes. Both Germany and Japan have tens of thousands of U.S. troops. Thank you, Amadeus. Appreciate that. Let's see. What do you think of Kamala's law enforcement history?
Yeah. We should do a Twitter version with that under it.
Yeah, that'd be funny. What do you think of Kamala's law enforcement history? My lib friends think it's a strength, even though they're defund the police too. Did she even do anything as VP in her campaign? Yeah, I mean, look, the law enforcement history. I mean, I think it's horrible. Obviously, that's what Tulsi took her to task for in the debate. Is that going to play? Who knows? Because as we've been saying. The best critiques of Kamala are from the left, and so is that gonna be something that Trump hones in on? It'll be interesting. I mean, you never know, but Trump, as we've been saying and as we've been seeing, has made a lot of inroads with black voters, partly because of that First Step Act, but also because of just how weak Biden was. Kamala got a slight bounce in black support relative to Biden, according to this new poll. But we'll see what kind of moves Trump makes to try and put her numbers more in line with what Biden's were.
Look, if they were smart, this would be a very smart move, and I'm not convinced that his people are smart enough to make this move. Make the argument. I understand you're in like this, pro-prison party and that's your base. I get it. But if you make the pitch, look, she continued Joe Biden's crazy crime policies. We're for law and order, but once you've served your sentence, you've served your sentence. Kamala kept them locked up after their sentence to work as slave labor. I think that you could thread that needle with the Republican base and make that critique of her that will appeal also to the black community and to left voters. I think you're really leaving something on the table to not get into what a horrific prosecutor she was.
Yeah.
And get into the Steve Mnuchin stuff, how she let the banks off the hook, even though all of her prosecutors said they had committed fraud. There is plenty to go after with Kamala. Some of it not as easy if you're running as the Republican, but some of that stuff they could find that balance if they're smart. I'm not convinced they're that smart.
Yeah, no, I think they probably could. The question is, do they find that to be worthwhile? Do they think that's worth the investment? Wasim Garani, last super chat. Would you consider? That's okay. No need to apologize. Thank you. We appreciate you. Last super chat. Would you consider getting Richard Medhurst?
Of course.
Laith Maroof, of course. Yes. Mahmoud Ode or Loki, as they have more knowledge. ICJ said, sorry, East Jerusalem is not yours. Yeah. No,
they did. Yeah, Loki. We've been mean. I think he follows us, right?
He does follow us. Yeah.
Yeah. We've been meaning to reach out to him to have him on.
Yep.
It's just, certain guests, honestly, like Whitney Webb always comes up. Certain guests you really want some prep time.
Sure,
I'd want more prep before we have Loki on and so on. But yes, ultimately, especially since we're doing weekly interviews now,
right.
Expect to see these people, assuming they say yes.
Oh, of course.
Or we can get them.
2011 in the Rumble chat. righty. Amish Red. Why didn't Tlaib say something? What's the worst that could happen to her? At least call him out on his rape and baby lies. The sign was lame. I mean, she got the cameras on. I mean, what are you going to do? You know, She should have had strength in numbers there. The other squad members should have showed up with her. Cosmos, thank you for the $5.
Yeah, fucking Bowman. What's he got to lose?
Yeah, it's true. Bowman should have been there. I didn't even think of that. Bowman, he's still in office.
What kind of hip-hop congressman is he anyway?
Yeah, exactly. How many queer Palestinians under the rubble in Gaza? Yes, good question. Yep. We're not falling for the Iran distraction. Thank you, Philip.
We did that as a segment. The Guardian did a really good article about this, about how queer Palestinians are disgusted by the way that Israel co-opts the rainbow flag to hide its atrocities. Right. That's exactly what they said. Like, what do you think we care about that when you're murdering us?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. 2 more talking points. Lib friends threw at me. I want to know what you think. Black and Latino caucus support equals she definitely has that whole demographic on lock, and RNC is scared low on funds. I don't know if the RNC is scared or low on funds. In terms of Black and Latino support, we're going to get to that. We're doing a whole segment on Kamala's polling, which is coming up fairly soon. So we will get into all of that. I appreciate that. Don't worry, your questions will be answered.
Let's put it this way. If she's not, that's what I was saying before. If she's not able to improve on where it is now, Trump's going to win easily.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like to me. Okay. All right, let's keep going here. Alrighty, folks, let's take a look at this piece of video, which was from May, so it's not from that long ago, but it recently surfaced as the J.D. Vance nomination pick has brought up the name Peter Thiel in the news quite recently. So here he is at the, at Oxford, fielding a question from the audience about the use of his AI program Lavender by the IDF in military operations.
So what do you think about the use of artificial intelligence or Lavender by the IDF in identifying Hamas targets? And secondly, do you agree with Elon Musk about that the population decline is a risk for humanity?
Look, I'm not, without going into all the I'm not on top of all the details of what's going on in Israel.
Be Joe Biden's speechwriter with that answer. Looks like did he do the debate prep for Joe Biden? Did he run that?
I mean, I wish he would just come clean. I didn't realize that Epstein was filming the encounter.
Yeah.
This is territory I really can't get into. So Whitney Webb, she was recently on Jimmy's show, and that segment made some waves because they talked about whether people will challenge Peter Thiel because of Rumble. So we're calling this segment the, you know what, we're tired of being featured on the homepage.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, fuck this guy. Fuck this guy. Fuck all these people.
Without going into all the I'm not on top of all the details of what's going on in Israel because my bias is to defer to Israel. It's not for us to second guess everything, and I believe that broadly the IDF gets to decide what it wants to do, and that they're broadly in the right, and that's sort of the perspective I come back to. And if I fall into the trap of arguing you on every detailed point, I would actually be conceding the broader issue that the Middle East should be micromanaged from Cambridge, and I think that's just simply absurd. And so I'm not going to concede that point. And what was the other?
What was the other question? If he was so uncomfortable with the first question, he should have just taken the second question first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then just be like, oh, sorry, what was the other question?
Yeah,
give you a little more time.
I just moved on. Look, it is remarkable that no matter what their ideology is, when it comes to Israel, there's one opinion. There's one opinion amongst all of them, from
he's
Peter
a right-wing
Thiel
fucking
to Nancy
guy anyway.
Pelosi.
Yeah.
They all have the exact same opinion. Yeah, but right wing can be. Hey, look, Tucker Carlson is right wing, and he's critical of
Not really.
Israel.
What the fuck's he really said? I mean, he had the interview with Thomas Massey.
He brought on that Christian priest.
No, he did. He did some stuff there for sure, but he could do better. He could do better. I haven't heard.
He could do better, but he wouldn't answer this question that way.
Yeah, no, of course not. Of course not.
Candace Owens, who, her views in general are complicated to say the least. She has not been supporting this, and not everyone over there has, but the people with real money and real power, like they are in lockstep. And what's really interesting is the way he panicked when he got asked that question. That's why I'm saying, like, man, how many flights you take with Epstein?
Well, I think
What's
this is
going
why.
on there?
So let's see here. Lavender, the AI machine directing Israel's bombing spree in Gaza. So what is this Lavender thing? This is an investigation by Plus 972 magazine, which is actually an Israeli magazine. It's actually based in Israel. It's founded by 4 left-wing Israelis, a very, very rare breed. And they wrote this article in April of this year. Their investigation. This is a long piece. We're not going to read even most of it. We're just going to give you a little taste of this. A new investigation by Plus 972 magazine and Local Call reveals that the Israeli army has developed an artificial intelligence-based program known as Lavender, unveiled here for the first time. According to 6 Israeli intelligence officers who have all served in the army during the current war on Gaza Strip and had first-hand involvement with the use of AI to generate targets for assassination, Lavender has played a central role in the unprecedented bombing of Palestinians, especially during the early stages of the war. In fact, according to the sources, its influence on the military's operations was such that they essentially treated the outputs of the AI machine as if it were a human decision. Formally, the Lavender system is designed to mark all suspected operatives in the military wings of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, including low-ranking ones, as potential bombing targets. The sources told Plus 972 and Local Call that during the first weeks of the war, the army almost completely relied on Lavender, which clocked as many as 37,000 Palestinians as suspected militants and their homes for possible strikes. During the early stages of the war, the Army gave sweeping approval for officers to adopt Lavender's kill lists with no requirement to thoroughly check why the machine made those choices or to examine the raw intelligence data on which they were based. One source stated that human personnel often served only as a rubber stamp for the machine's decisions, adding that normally they would personally devote only about 20 seconds to each target before authorizing a bombing, just to make sure the Lavender-marked target is a male. This was despite knowing that the system makes what are regarded as errors in approximately 10% of cases and is known to occasionally mark individuals who have merely a loose connection to militant groups or no connection at all. 20 seconds. Devote 20 seconds to each target before authorizing a bombing. So basically, they are determining targets for assassination like YouTube determines a community guidelines violation. Our AI says this. Oh, looks like you broke this rule, right? AI, this is tech. This is the world of tech. Moreover, the Israeli army systematically attacked the targeted individuals while they were in their homes. This is what I was talking about earlier on the stream. Usually at night, while their whole families were present, rather than during the course of military activity. According to the sources, this was because, from what they regarded as an intelligence standpoint, it was easier to locate the individuals in their private houses. So there you go. A willingness, in fact, a desire to strike them at home where their families live because it's easier to hit them there.
Hang on. According to Netanyahu and some crackhead who works at West Point that he talked to, Israel has exceeded any efforts to avoid civilian casualties in the history of warfare in the Gaza war.
Yeah.
Sure doesn't sound like it.
No, No, this is a chilling investigation. A really, really great write-up. I encourage you all to read this. Additional automated systems, including one called Where's Daddy, also revealed here for the first time, were used specifically to track the targeted individuals and carry out bombings when they had entered their families' residences. The result, as the sources testified, is that thousands of Palestinians, most of them women and children or people who were not involved in the fighting, were wiped out by Israeli airstrikes, especially during the first weeks of the war, because of the AI program's decision. So this is an AI program.
Processor, a learning computer.
Yeah. An AI program that instructs to shoot first, ask questions later, if at all, 20-second quote-unquote verification process, which is no verification process at all. And so maybe that explains why Peter Thiel's reaction was the way it was.
What do you think about the use of artificial intelligence, or lavender, by the IDF in identifying Hamas targets? And secondly, do you agree with Elon Musk about that the population decline is a risk for humanity?
Look, I'm not,
he's panicking.
Deer in the headlights there. Deer in the headlights there. Well, she knew what she was talking about, man. She knew her stuff. So this is the article here, and there have been some other write-ups about this, but this is the one that's most widely cited. It's by far the most thorough that I've come in contact with. Plus 972 magazine, which honestly I would actually be very interested to have these guys on the show who started this. We could probably get in touch with them because these guys live in Israel. It's founded by 4 leftists who live in Israel, who have, done a lot of investigative reporting on the Gaza war from the perspective you would expect given this piece here. But that is chilling. That is just nightmarish. And, it's all of a piece. It sounds trivial to put this in the context that I put it in now, which is I learned the ethos of big tech from driving Uber. Like, you really see the whole thing there. Yeah, we'll make a program that says who's a terrorist and who's not. And yeah, there's error, and sometimes we'll get it wrong, but who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Move fast, bomb things.
Yeah, move fast, bomb things. Exactly. What a terrifying thing that is.
That is the Terminator.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. It's the real life Terminator. Fitting sound drop. Russ, FYI, we never left. U.S. military forces are currently dispersed on 85 bases across Okinawa, Honshu, and Kyushu. And as of June of this year, the U.S. Army has more than 40 military bases in Germany. Yep.
Sure, but we're not running their government except in the broad abstract sense.
Right. Okay, let's go here. Thank you for that donation, by the way. It's very kind of you. Leprechaun Alley, we predict a very happy baby. Thank you, Leprechaun Alley. Appreciate that very much.
And leprechauns always know.
The leprechauns always know. That's right. Susanna, congrats on 70,000 subs.
Thank you.
Nothing can stop you now. Thank you. Yeah, we hit that this morning right before we went on. 100K is just around the corner. You guys are the best. Well, thank you, Susanna.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Susanna.
That. That's very kind of you to say. Nocturnal Human, I'm stupid and it's late for me. I forgot the primary's already done, but it never really happened. LOL. It's okay. Nocturnal Human, you work nights, hence the name Nocturnal Human. Let's see here. My pick for Kamala's VP is swing state Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, if only because the campaign slogan writes itself, the astronaut and the space cadet. Oh, look at that. Good one. Like that one. Rochi boy, appreciate that. Let's see. Is there any truth to the reports of violence and vandalism at D.C. protests? If so, that's unfortunate. I'm against America funding the murder of civilians. Spend American money on American. Yeah, they spray painted some statues, and from what I could see, there were some scuffles with the cops. Of course, they will frame that as protesters attacking the cops, when, as we've seen, a lot of times the cops attack the protesters, so it's very difficult to discern that. But the way I see it, all protests, just about every protest of large scale, has had pockets where there are dust-ups with the cops, but it is mostly a very peaceful and relaxed atmosphere. That's my experience going to protests, and seems like this was the same thing. Correct. Organizers handle the busing. I was offered a bus ticket intent to go to Atlanta for Stop Cop City. I supported.
Right. Yeah.
Given what happened, I'm glad I stayed home. Well, yeah, they got the treatment there. But yes, no, that happens all the, like there's nothing unusual about organizations going to protest renting a bus. That just makes sense, especially in D.C., which is one of the hardest cities to drive in the country. Absolutely terrible. And park and everything. Yeah, why wouldn't you rent a bus? I mean, it's so dumb. Okay. No doubt special interests are funding every side while hoping for chaos. Thing is that Yahoo is certainly allied with them. Speaking of chaos. Thank you, Zach Boyles. Appreciate that. Distracted by milk, says the amazing Blumpkin. Thank you. All right, let's go here. For a country that turned its back on monarchy, says Rochi Boy, that was some coronation y'all just staged for us in the colonies. Yes, well, we're going to do that. That's coming up.
Yeah.
That is coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree that Tucker Carlson is not really critical of Israel. Talks a lot about America first. Stop short of criticizing and the state, mostly saying, I had a good experience there. Yeah, he's more isolationist in terms of, like, why does America support them? I haven't heard any sort of righteous indignation from him on the treatment of the Palestinian people, the way he has about Russia-Ukraine. He calls that a great crime. Okay, well, that is a great crime. I agree with you. So is it, like, what's stopping you from saying this is a great crime? I agree. Okay. Thiel is the guy that funded the Hulk Hogan lawsuit that destroyed Gawker. Privacy for me, not for thee. Yeah. And two, just so everybody knows this, because you might not be as inside of it. Thiel does not run Rumble. Rumble has its own CEO. He's an investor. He has his own CEO. So it's not like that is his platform. And Rumble has been great to us and great to everybody who has said whatever the fuck they want. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. When this came across the interwebs, because there was that conversation so recently about, well, people aren't going to want to criticize Peter Thiel. Well, that was a gimme. Well, now we got to do it.
Yeah,
exactly, this segment. Although you don't see a lot of footage of him in context like that, so we probably would have done it anyway, because that had a lot of value on its own merits to really show you where a lot of these people who claim to be libertarian, there's this Israel exception.
Yep.
Right. That's not very libertarian for us to be sending all this money to Israel, is there? Why don't you speak out against that?
Yeah. Yep. Of course. No doubt about that. Okay. Tucker had John Rich on, talked about all those evangelicals are being misled, and Tucker was able to connect the dots about congressmen and their ideology and our foreign policy. Sure. Of course.
Yeah. That's really what I'm referring to. He hasn't lately. But early on, he did that, and he had I forget the name of the priest.
Well, Munther Isaac is the Bethlehem preacher. That was great. He had Thomas
Exactly.
Massey on to talk about the AIPAC guy. Like he's been good on that in terms of like their influence on the government and our loyalty to a foreign country. But in terms of like actually litigating the Zionist project, I haven't heard him go there. So that's what I meant by that. Okay. Let's do some politics here. So as we know, folks, Kamala Harris is now the presumptive nominee, so to speak, as she had secured enough delegates. She locked up the delegate majority within 1 day of Joe Biden withdrawing from the presidential race. And now we finally have our first polling to look at, which is post-Biden withdrawal, which means this is now the first head-to-head Kamala versus Trump polling with her as an actual candidate in the race. So this polling data was taken the 22nd and the 23rd. Here is CNN breaking down their findings.
First look at a Harris-Trump race that is no longer hypothetical. And what you see here is there's no clear leader in the top line of the horse race here. A 3-point margin. That's within the margin of error, Dana. Donald Trump at 49%.
Well, I mean, you want to get semantical. There is a clear leader. 3 points is not 1 point. 3 points is right on the edge of the margin of error. So if it was Trump 49.1 to 46, you'd say that was a clear leader because it's technically a tenth of a point outside the margin of error. Margin of error, assuming the maximum margin of error, 3 points, that would bring it up to a tie. So yeah, right. I mean, there is a clear leader.
Percent support. Kamala Harris at 46% support. That's about half the margin that we saw in the Biden versus Trump matchup the last couple of months that we polled. That was a 6-point race. This one now is a 3-point race. And if you look here, broken out by party, you see near total consolidation among Democrats for Harris, similar, more than 9 in 10 Republicans for Trump. Take a look here at the independents. Trump has 46%, Harris has 43%. Biden was losing independents to Trump in the last couple of months, according to our polling, by roughly 10 points. Now now Harris is just losing them by 3, though remember, Biden won them by 13 points in 2020 when he won that election.
Now let's
Okay, so what you're going to see as these results, come in and they break it down into a few more categories as the video goes on. It's only about 3 minutes. It's not long. Is that Kamala has definitely closed the margins, but the margins are still lopsided in Trump's favor. I mean, you had Biden winning independents by double digits in 2020. He was losing independents by double digits this year, which is why they forced him out of the race, because the polling just showed a wipeout. So they sub him out for a younger Democrat, and she closed up some margins. 94-5 is actually pretty impressive. That as many Democrats have united behind her, since Biden was not polling that well among Democrats. But the independents, yes, so she's made up ground, but she's still underwater, and that's kind of the story of all of these polls. Go ahead.
Yeah, didn't they get into Latino and young
they
youth
get
vote?
into that. Yep.
Let's talk about the coalition.
Oh, sorry, I thought you wanted to see that. That's coming up soon.
Yeah, go ahead.
The president, now former candidate for re-election, Joe Biden, really struggled with was holding the Democratic coalition together. Where is Kamala Harris on that?
She's definitely making up ground with some of these key core constituencies. If you look here, this is a poll that we did with SSRS, contacting people we had polled in April and June, right? So you can actually track the movement. And you see here, young voters, it was a 7-point advantage for Trump in the spring over Biden. Now Kamala Harris has a 4-point advantage among young voters. Black voters, Joe Biden had a 47-point advantage in the spring. Kamala Harris has increased that to a 63 percentage point advantage there. Hispanic voters, Harris narrows Trump's advantage, but I just want to note again, Donald Trump numerically ahead among Hispanic voters within the margin of error. That was a key group in 2020 that Biden won overwhelmingly, so still work there to do for the Democrats. And among female voters, you see that Harris has increased the lead where they were tied among women when it was Biden on the ticket.
These numbers.
Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, these are terrible numbers if they stay this way or decline. So really the question is, does Harris have room to grow? Because if you look at that advantage with young voters, Democrat cannot win with a 4-point advantage with the 18 to 34 demographic. With black voters, a 63-point advantage is very weak. 47 is extraordinary, but 63 is extremely weak. And if I'm not wrong about this, I think that would be historic if that held up for a Republican to take 37% of the black vote, if it indeed worked out that way.
Well, she leads by 63, so that doesn't mean a Republican wins 37%. It means the difference is 63 points, which would put Trump's numbers at about 20, which in itself is historic. 20 is historic. 15 would be historic.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And a blowout. A blowout for the Republicans if he led like that. And with Hispanic voters still leading, and only a 5-point lead with female voters, only 5 points. So if these numbers held and the election were held tomorrow, Trump would win by a sizable margin. If they decline, as I suspect they will, we're going to get into it later, but Obama's no dummy. There may be a reason he's not endorsing.
The Hispanic voters is the real crusher, and this has been a story for a long time, so it's sort of less of a story now because it's not as newsworthy that Trump is leading with Hispanic voters. But that's a crusher. I think Biden won them like 60-30 last time. I mean, he won Hispanic voters by 30 points.
Right.
When Trump,
Arizona's gone at that point.
Well, you can kiss the Sun Belt goodbye. Arizona, Nevada, That's why even New Mexico Trump is making a play for. So, those numbers are better than Biden's, which is an indication of why he got out of the race, why they forced him out. Because if you look at Biden's numbers, I mean, it's just an absolute bloodbath.
Right.
But this is still a very weak position to start from, especially when the candidate is not very good. Because that means she's going to have a hard time growing those numbers out.
Right.
Like, yeah, are you in a better spot now than with, an 81-year-old genocide accomplice who can't talk? Sure. But not enough. Not enough. And to the extent that Kamala is not a genocide, well, she's second in command. She's VP. She met with Netanyahu, too.
Well, not only that, attack you're seeing with Republicans, and I think it's good, is what did Kamala know and when did she know it?
Well, yeah,
they're going to hang on her. Well, you've been covering up for the fact that the president's not the president for years. Why should anyone trust what you say about anything? And then with Biden staying in office, that really is going to make life difficult for her because she's going to keep getting that question from Republicans. Is he competent to be president? Are you prepared to say that? Will you go on record saying that Joe Biden is competent to be president? No matter what, there's no good answer to that.
Exactly.
Numbers are fascinating, especially given that important piece of information you just gave us, which is that these our polling company, our colleagues, went back and talked to the exact same people that they talked to earlier. Okay, let's talk about what voters want from their presumptive new nominee.
One of the numbers that just jumped off the page when the poll came back, Dana, was this is among Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents. Do you want the next Democratic nominee, her name is Kamala Harris, we know, to continue Biden's policies or take the United States in a new direction? 53% say continue Biden's policies. 47% say take in a new direction. A near even split among Democrats looking for a new direction here. I think that is very interesting to watch forward how Kamala Harris campaigns on that. And then we've talked a lot about this all cycle long. Are you voting for a candidate or against a candidate? Take a look at what a difference a couple days make. For Harris, now it splits evenly. 50% of Harris supporters say they are casting their vote for her. 50% say they're doing it against Trump. Look at what that was when Biden was the nominee. 2/3 of his votes were against Trump. Only about a third, 37%, were for him. Harris changes that equation. Donald Trump, by the way, gets more affirmative support after the assassination attempt, after his convention. He's now up to 74% of his voters who say they are voting to cast their ballot for him. Only a quarter say they're casting their ballot to be opposed to Kamala Harris, Dana.
All right, so that is really interesting, too. And, these two questions, are you voting for Harris or against Trump among Harris voters? It's kind of the same question as this. It's not a surprise to me that those split roughly along the same lines. The fact that you have essentially a 50-50 split amongst Democrat or lean Democrat voters as to whether or not the successor to the current Democrat should continue the policies of the current Democrat. Right. Yeah, that says a lot about where you're at. And so that's why you have, it makes sense that the 53% who say that Harris should continue Biden's policies, they would be excited to vote affirmatively for Harris, and that the 47% would just be voting against Trump because they think the country needs to go in a new direction. But you have there a very, very weak commitment to the record of the incumbent, which, again, puts you on very, very, very weak footing going into the home stretch of a campaign, which, if you had a talented candidate, there is some chance you could make that up. Although when you look at the electoral map, and as we've done, the inside straight they're looking at having to pull is a heavy lift to begin with. You're going to see over the next couple weeks whether she's capable of moving these polls, because while this is certainly an improvement over Biden, I mean, there's no denying that his numbers were just tanking. Don't forget, folks, they don't swap out a candidate mid-race unless they have to. And what those Biden numbers showed you is that they had to. So, this is a Hail Mary play. And like most Hail Mary plays, it looks like it's not going to work. Doesn't mean they were wrong to do it. They had to do it. They had no choice but to do it. But you're still looking at a very steep uphill battle for them.
Yeah, and good luck trying to recast the Biden record as a positive for her.
Right.
Running as the Biden-Harris administration, you might wish you hadn't done that branding exercise in preparation for your own run over the next few years. I don't think you're going to convince people that the wheelbarrows of cash they have to bring down to the grocery store for eggs is a good thing or exemplifies a good record. And as even a talented politician would have a hard time under these circumstances. That is not Kamala. The first time she gets a question she doesn't know how to answer and starts word salading, her numbers are going to go off a cliff. I do believe this is as good as it gets for her because she just does not have the skills to improve on it. What you got right now is a snapshot of partisanship.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance she'll get a convention bounce, but that puts you in third week of August territory.
Right.
Right. And then you have the debates. Like I said, I don't think the debates are going to I don't think debates matter very much unless they go the way Biden's went.
Unless, right.
And that really is not a debate
total
story.
Collapse.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. There was, as Russell said, that's more a news event than a debate story, right? It wasn't that Biden lost on points, right? It was that look at what we're dealing with here.
Right.
So so that's the first real major breakdown in polling that we've seen. Reuters had one up that had Kamala up 44 to 42. That was the only other one that I've seen. And generally, if you look at the average, what I expect we'll see as more come in, is that you're going to see a slight closing of the gap. The question is, can she close it any further? Because as Russell said, this was a big week for her. This is the coronation week, right? And so this you would think might represent a peak. And so we will have to see.
Well, that's why I don't know how much the convention is going to do for her because I would expect these numbers to pull back between now and the convention. So whatever bump she gets will be back to this.
Well, you're going to see the attack ads. You're going to see those kinds of things come out too.
They have not even begun, and there's a lot to work with Harris. Again, she had to drop out of New Hampshire because she was polling 5th in California, her home state.
Right. Exactly. Sparky, one of my brothers and my niece visited their alma mater, UVA. Unbeknownst to them, it was concurrent with the Unite the Right protest. Oh, really? They happened to be there that day in 2017? Jesus. I called him about a random issue. He described play-by-play, neo-Nazis and anti-Nazis right at a central casting, getting off the same charter bus. Interesting. So I guess they had the same bus tickets.
That must have been a hell of a bus ride.
A hell of a bus ride, yeah. He thought were some of these reenactors. He said nothing more about it after learning about the Unite the Right. That particular brother is anti-Trump bourgeois. Thank you, Sparky.
A lot of Allman Brothers and fish on that bus.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. Candace Owens did release a video documenting how Bella Hadid's dad became a refugee from Palestine. Ironically, when posting on Instagram, the volume was working. Then later, Instagram put it on... ran out of characters there. It was an interesting story that Hadid's grandmother accepted 2 Jewish refugees for 2 years, then came back from errands with 9-day-old baby, which is Hadid's dad, to find the locks changed. Wow. Crazy.
Wow. I have no idea why these people hate them.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
John M. in Minnesota, the books Garland said was removed from Amazon, Kamala Harris and Future of America, an essay in 3 parts. Apologies if this is a repeat. No, it's okay.
Well, now I got to try to get a hold of that because we might have him on the show.
Yeah, we're going to try to get...
We almost certainly will.
Yeah, we're going to try to get Caleb on the show to talk about that. But yeah,
we'd
like to...
We're in communication.
Read it first, obviously. So that would be nice to be able to do.
Which that is going to be very difficult now that you can't get it on Amazon. Because he did throw up an alternative link.
Yeah.
But... getting it in time from that, they're not going to have like same day
delivery.
They
might be able to send you. I mean, a lot of these authors have PDFs that they can send you. Like if you're going to interview them, they might be able to send you something. I'm going to ask him,
can you send over an electronic copy?
Yeah. Trump should definitely attack Kamala from the left on her prosecution record. Step back gives him ammo. Yep, BLM came out against her. There's opportunity there. That's right. Yeah, BLM did come out with some good tweets against her there for sure. I did see that. Okay, let's see here. You just reminded me that on the way home from Rage Against the War Machine protests, I drove down the wrong way of a one-way street in D.C. West Virginia driver here. No, D.C. is absolutely brutal to drive in. It is torture. It is really hard. My brother's play-by-play was in real time. I may not have gotten across that my random call to him was as it was happening. Wow. So you just happened to call him when he was in the middle of that. That's crazy. I use public transport or Uber when I do First Amendment cop audits or protests. Who the hell wants the feds and tyrants following them home? Nobody. Well, that's another reason. Yeah, why the busing is a good idea.
Well,
but it's also
what
just an efficiency
I learned
issue.
from the Maddow protest is if you're going to go someplace interior, don't bring a bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're probably going to make you check it, and then they won't give it back to you.
And then they won't give it back to you. That's right. Keep up the good work, y'all. The next few months are going to be precarious, annoying, and weird, especially for the politically unhoused. Yes, indeed. Thank you, D. Marie. Appreciate that. In 2020, just over 158 million votes were cast for U.S. president. Trump lost by 7 million. That's a national lead of +3 is 4.74 million. That's also a national shift of nearly 12 million. Yeah, that is a big number. And thanks for breaking that down, Cool Blue. Charter buses to protest certainly aren't remarkable, but apparent enemies are renting the same non-mega bus charter bus is. Thank you, Sparky. Let's see here. Doug and Kamala making love. What can be unburdened by what has been? Honey, shut up. Thank you. See, there's a tastefully put joke. 2020, Biden D's won Hispanics nationally by 33. That's right. Blacks by 75, females by 15. Biden nationally won 18 to 29 by 24 and 30 to 44 by 6. Yeah, there you go. See, so you contrast those numbers with what we just saw in the last segment there. Plus 33 to -2. I mean, that's devastating.
Yeah,
that's devastating.
That's a blowout for Trump.
Yeah.
If those numbers don't drastically change. And does Kamala seem like someone who's going to be able to drastically change those numbers?
Right. No, exactly. It's it looks not good. Believe me, not good for her. Not trying to back up the bus moron, but the subject brought back that memory that Unite the Right may not have been altogether grassroots. Well, you think they have them on the same bus? What by design? I mean, I don't know. Eric Suarez, if Trump would keep his mouth shut, he would win the Hispanic vote, but this nonsense to mess with Mexico only plays against him. I don't know. I mean, he fared better than expected with Hispanics in 2016. Time. Yeah.
Listen, in the tradition of all the immigrants that have come before them, my experience of Latino immigrants is they are very happy to pull up the ladder behind them.
Well, I know that in the case of, like I said, I have a friend whose parents, cut through a fence to get here, and he felt that because they had to go through this huge process of becoming, citizens, that it was unfair to, give amnesty to people who don't go through that process. So there's a lot of that. Yeah. There's a lot of people protective of their own experience.
Yep. Yeah. The assumption that Latinos are just going to say, we want more.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, for the same reason that black men poll highest on the question of, are you against immigration? They're competing for the same jobs as these recent arrivals. They don't want more of them. The assumption that they're all advocating to get more people from Mexico in the country, it's just not true. It's a very facile, simplistic understanding of that community.
All right. Let's see here. Check out JD's clip with Caleb Maupin. Yeah, I know he had him on yesterday. I have to watch that. I haven't seen that yet. His book was scrubbed from Amazon. Yep, indeed. Thank you for that. Okay, let's talk. Let's grab a Rumble rant here. Okay, all right, let's go. We got a couple more things to do today. Still some show left. All right, so it seems like the entire Democratic Party is united behind Kamala Harris, except, notably and interestingly, Barack Obama. Obama doesn't believe Kamala Harris can beat Trump, which is why he has not endorsed her, sources say. Former President Barack Obama hasn't endorsed Kamala Harris's presidential bid because he doesn't think she can beat Donald Trump, according to a source close to the Biden family. Following Joe Biden's shock resignation from the race on Sunday and his immediate endorsement of the vice president, most of the Democratic elite have been quick to rally behind Harris, but Obama is a notable exception. Obama's very upset because he knows she can't win, the Biden family source told the Post. Obama knows she's just incompetent. The border czar who never visited the border, saying that all migrants should have health insurance. She cannot navigate the landmines that are ahead of her. When you are running for president, there are things you can and can't say. The turning point for Biden, 81, came after his disastrous performance against Trump in a televised debate, from which the Post first revealed was part of an elaborate setup to remove him from the race. But the source doesn't have high hopes for a TV debate between Trump and Harris. When Biden was still in the race, a second debate was scheduled for September 10th. Yeah, they wouldn't have gotten that either. Wait until the debate. She can't debate. She's going to put her foot in her mouth about Israel, Palestine, Ukraine. She's going to say something really stupid, the source said. Obama knew this was going to happen. Joe knew this was going to happen. Now she is going to have to answer real questions. The White House did not respond to the Post's request for comment on this story. According to the source, Obama's hope was to get Biden out of the way, and an article written by George Clooney in the New York Times asking him to step aside was part of that plan. However, the higher-ups in the Democratic Party didn't count on Biden endorsing Harris right away, and, quote, Obama was shocked when Joe endorsed her, according to the insider. After Biden's ouster, Obama, who did not return a request for comment Wednesday, wanted Arizona Senator and former astronaut Mark Kelly at the top of the ticket when the Democratic National Convention is held next month, the source said. Obama is furious things haven't gone his way, which is why he is not joining in the Democratic Party's support of Harris, the Biden source added. Another well-placed Democratic source said, Obama being surprised by a smart political decision actually makes sense when coupled with his personal inability to see politics beyond his singular immediate interests. Wow, little trouble in the house of Obama there. Obama always thinks he is the smartest and coolest guy in the room. He's friends with George Clooney, after all. Rod Blagojevich, the disgraced former governor of Illinois.
There's a name we haven't heard for a while.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't heard that in a long time. The disgraced former governor of Illinois, who denounced Obama as a threat to democracy in a Wall Street Journal op-ed Tuesday, told the Post he believes Obama was instrumental to getting Biden out of the race. Blagojevich, a former Democrat who is now supporting Trump, was governor of Illinois when Obama became a state senator in 2005. Biden's departure from the race couldn't have happened without him, Blagojevich told the Post. Without Obama, Biden is still the Democratic nominee. Obama was the conductor leading the orchestra that convinced Biden to step aside. Obama ended his role as Illinois senator when he was elected president, while Blagojevich was impeached in 2009 for attempting to sell Obama's vacant Senate seat, removed from office and convicted on corruption charges a year later. Obama persuading Biden not to run for the presidency in 2016 in order to allow Hillary Clinton a shot at the White House has also since been a sticking point between them, according to reports. He was not encouraging, Biden later told the New York Times, referring to the former president, who believed at the time that the former Secretary of State had a better chance of beating Trump. Well, he called that one pretty wrong.
Yeah.
He's running the Democratic Party like a Chicago ward boss from the shadows in the back room, Blagojevich continued. In this case, it's a big back room because he has a lot of big houses. So little resentment there, which could be the source of this leak. You know, we know that Biden was pissed off that Obama tried to get him out. So maybe one of the family said, hey, you know what? I'll shit talk Obama to the press a little bit. If he can dish it, he can take it.
That's what I was thinking when I read it, because a Biden family member, they clearly wanted to keep the grift going.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe, you answered all the questions, Joe. God knows how much fucking power Joe Biden has had in that White House. She's the president.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't want to give up that power. So so they leaked it. How true is that? Look, Obama knows how to issue an endorsement. This isn't like it's a controversial thing he's wading into by doing it. He doesn't like to do those things in public. So sure, it does seem to be indicative of something that he's choosing not to endorse Kamala this long.
Of course. Of course. I mean, it was notable he tweeted out last night in response to Biden's address to the country after formally conceding the nomination. He tweeted out, it's not like he's been radio silent. Like, if he wanted to endorse Harris now that she has the delegate majority, I mean, think about that. She has the delegate majority. She is the presumptive nominee at this point, barring any cataclysmic events or circumstance.
Apparently,
she's going to
that's
get the
not
votes.
really a done deal until the floor.
Well, until they vote,
nomination
obviously.
at the convention.
Well, yeah.
I read something that even this virtual thing they're doing doesn't seal it. That until they, I don't know if that's true. I read it in a source, and I've seen a lot of these articles. Nobody really seems to know what the fuck's going on. But one of these articles said until the floor votes, it's not a done deal.
Well, when she has convinced the majority of delegates to back her, that's what I mean. Like, it would take something seismic to reverse that. You know, they've now come out and said,
well,
that,
Obama
we
could
support
do it.
Kamala Harris. Yeah, is that going to happen? I mean, is that going to happen? How much time do they really have? How much time do they have between this virtual vote and August?
Probably not. Yeah. But the fact that he hasn't endorsed her, there's a reason. There is a reason.
The reason is, I think these claims are true. I mean, it makes sense. It doesn't just seem like gossip that someone printed for no reason. I think it makes sense. The reason he did not endorse her is because he wanted a more open process. He wanted a hand in picking who the nominee was going to be, just like he had a hand in that in 2020, clearing the field for Biden at the last minute. Seems like he would want that. I also believe the claim that he wants it to be Mark Kelly from Arizona. I think that's a smart pick. I think it's a smart pick. Doesn't mean my politics are Mark Kelly's politics, but the most generic Democrat you can put on the ballot is the best in this situation. Because the polling says younger generic Democrat beats Trump pretty handily. So the closer you can get to that, the biggest chance you have to win. So Kelly would be strong. He's an astronaut. Who doesn't like an astronaut? Come on, who wouldn't vote for an astronaut over Donald Trump? I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not voting for either party. Unless you're a committed, cynical bastard like me.
They didn't actually go to the moon.
Yeah, people are saying he's not even an astronaut.
He's not even an astronaut. He did that on a set in Hollywood.
It's a Hollywood movie set, exactly. No, but I mean, to the average person, fucking an astronaut, why wouldn't you vote for an astronaut named Mark Kelly? It's so benign. It's so unthreatening.
Right.
I think he'd have a good chance to win. I think Andy Bashir would have a good chance to win. I think the most generic, especially Democrats who don't necessarily code Democrat, don't code, elite, Ivy League, woke, whatever. Like, that is the lane that gives you the best chance. Are you the favorite? I don't think you can say any Democrat's the favorite under these circumstances, but that gives you the best chance. And they didn't go that way because they couldn't. They couldn't because they knew they had saddled themselves with Harris. And so that's it. It's Harris. This was a colossal failure of thinking by Democratic leadership. I don't know whose hand was involved in Biden picking Harris as vice president, but you talk about a lack of foresight and a lack, a lack of preparation. Like, did you think Biden was going to be able to run in 2024 again? Did you really think that? And if not, when he picked Harris, you should have known, wow, we have a major problem on our hands. And if you really wanted to solve it, what you'd have done is you'd have forced Biden to drop out a year and a half ago so that you would have had a real primary. Harris would have gone into that primary with an edge as the vice president, but I don't know. I don't think she'd have won it. I don't think she'd have won it because she came in with a huge advantage in 2019, and she blew it in a month. Within a month or two, she was in the bottom tier. And
they anointed her the second Hillary lost.
Exactly, and she blew it then. So, like, if you wanted to avoid this problem, the way to avoid this problem, even after he picked Kamala. If you really wanted to avoid the problem, you should have made sure he didn't pick Kamala. I don't know what level of control they had over that. But if you can maneuver behind the scenes the way they were able to maneuver behind the scenes in the 11th hour, you do have to chalk it up to just arrogance and stupidity that they didn't anticipate this problem a year and a half ago, because then they could have had a primary. They would have gotten one of their stooges in. They wouldn't have let a Bernie type win. They would have had whoever as opposed to Kamala Harris, and they would have been fine with it. And there'd have been no issue now. Instead, they're in an unwinnable situation where they're going to have to move heaven and earth if they want Kamala out at this point. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's a done deal whether Obama likes it or not, honestly, at this point. And they're stuck with an extraordinarily weak candidate going up against the next Hitler, as they say.
Well, the fact that they were going to run him is further evidence that he was never the president. They've been doing a weekend at Biden's act with him for 4 years, and they were hoping they could get away with that until after the election. That they never thought he was going to serve 4 more years. They just thought they could prop him up on the couch like they have been, call him the president, win the election, and then just continue to run the White House with him as a figurehead, which is increasingly clearly what's been going on.
Right. Yes.
That's the ideal president for these people.
Right, of course.
You don't even have to pretend they're in charge.
No, you don't even have to pretend. It's Anthony Blinken. It's Jake Sullivan.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
That's who you look to. Right? That's who you look to see actually what decisions are being made.
Right.
That's why when Blinken talks, it carries so much
beautiful.
more weight than when Biden talks.
Yeah, they didn't have to worry about Biden messing with their plans or having to really explain things or have hard conversations. That was the perfect puppet president for them. They wanted to keep it going, but it hit the wall when they put him in a debate.
Exactly. Cool Blue. In 2008, ours did not win given Bush's job approval was under 40% since after the 2006 midterms, D's flipped Congress. Here in 2024, Democrats saddled with Biden's 38%. Yeah. Yep. Peter Monahan, Gator Pete, this presidential election is turning into a DEI TED Talk. Thank you, Peter Monahan. What percent can Harris get with Biden's 38% approval? My guess is no higher than 5 more percent, 43. Trump can reach 40 states with a PV margin of +6 or +7, with a popular vote margin of +6 or 7. Yeah, I mean, that seems more like, as Axelrod said, it's more likely Trump wins in a landslide than that the Democrats win narrowly. That's kind of the range of outcomes here. Democrats win narrowly or Trump landslide, and the latter certainly seems more likely, even with this switch having been made. Nico House said Kamala's sister worked for Hillary, and that's how Kamala initially got into politics. Willie Brown came later, so Kamala may be part of the Clinton faction rather than the Obama faction. Yeah, I mean, I believe that. I think Obama's looking for who he thinks is the most electable.
Right.
I mean, I don't think he really has anything against Kamala beyond the fact that he doesn't think she could win. If he thought she could win, he'd back her. I don't think there'd be any issue there. All those personal loyalties aside. Okay. The 1% runs the show. Kamala got 1% of the Dem primary vote. With the margin of error, she could have gotten -2 of the vote. Yes, that's right. It's within the margin of error. That's right. Let's see here. Are You Poster, thanks for the $10. Will our favorite lefty podcast now be offering union-made merch in their online store? Both Cornell West and RFK Jr. do. Maybe reach out to them for guidance on how to put the walk to the talk. Peace.
Yeah, those guys love us. It's you know what? It's a good point.
The only problem I see with that, and I will look for it because we're going to look for another vendor, but the problem I anticipate with that is that these merch things are all print on demand since we sell such low volume. So are you going to get a union shop to do print on demand? Do they do that?
Right.
Or do they just
I would imagine they're
500
ordering
shirts?
big bulk
Yeah,
where they have more control over which factory they're contracting. This one that RBN uses, we're about to look into. So
okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Apparently Kelly had the same views about the pro-Palestine protests as Shapiro. Yeah, no, they're all garbage. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying from an electability standpoint, he makes the most sense if your goal is simply to win. But yeah, no, they're all trash.
I mean, unless you're going to run Rashida Tlaib, which Democrat are you going to find that is not pro-Palestine? It's not pro-Israel, rather.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's not pro-Israel. Yeah, of course. Kamala book on Eagle Harbor Books, back ordered. Thank you, John, in Minnesota. Yeah, we're going to try to get a PDF copy out of Caleb.
But yeah, that's the only way we'd be able to see it in time to have him on for Sunday.
Yeah. All right. I was going to make a joke, but I shouldn't. Just a flight between Obama wing and Getty Oil wing. All right. Let's, we got one more segment, and then we're going to take a couple more super chats. Folks, this was a heavy day. It was a heavy day, obviously, with the Netanyahu speech, and then the really disturbing story about the lavender AI. And so we really thought we should, if there's any day where it makes sense to end on a light note, it would be today. So let's do that.
Yeah. I originally, when we started doing the Thursday morning shows, we conceived them to be a little lighter, and I really wanted to have a weekly animal segment, but you just can't justify that when it's like, yeah, let's bump the genocide for the dog story.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So we don't get to do it consistently, but today was the day I was able to squeeze one in. The revolution is spreading, folks. It started in Spain, and now it's moving to the New England coast. The whales have arrived. Whale of New Hampshire slams into fishing boat, hurling men into the Atlantic. And there is video. It's coming. A whale was
men were fine. They were not injured. They were not.
They were not.
They were fine.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a light story.
Wouldn't be a light
story.
In other words. And like like most American revolutionary movements, this one is misguided because they didn't hit a yacht. They hit the workers.
They didn't hit a yacht. They hit the workers.
They hit the workers.
They're watching Fox.
That whale is MAGA. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard these whales were very angry about the minimum wage increase in California too.
Yeah, well, that's why they moved to New Hampshire. It's a swing state. They were off the coast of Massachusetts, and they're like, these people are just they're too woke, so they swam north to New Hampshire.
Yeah, and these are populist right whales.
Yeah, exactly. J.D. Vance whales. Yeah.
A whale was mid-breach when it hit a small boat off New Hampshire, causing the vessel to capsize and hurl two fishermen overboard in a matter of seconds. Colin and Wyatt Yeager, two teenage brothers from Maine on a neighboring vessel, took to social media Tuesday to share the footage, which has been reposted multiple times. One video in particular has garnered over 4 million views and hundreds of comments with a caption that warns area residents to beware of a, quote, pissed off whale patrolling the waters off Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Damn welfare queens. Head on swivel if you're out there, the caption says. The teens swiftly rescued both fishermen after their boat capsized off Odiorne Point in Rye, New Hampshire. Yeah, I'm going to New Hampshire next week. I've never been to New Hampshire, strangely. Wyatt Yeager wasn't initially worried about the whale, telling Seacoast Online that all of the boats stayed along the edge of the school of fish so the whale could feed, but it got a little too close to the vessel, causing it to tip over. Quote, I was just in shock. Everyone else had the same reaction and tried to get over to those people, he said. It was like, oh, shoot. And then we've got to go help these people. All the boats dropped what they were doing to go over to help them. Ain't that America? You and me. Neither the men thrown into the ocean nor the whale were injured. See? They were not injured. USA Today reached out to the Coast Guard for comment. The whale crashed into Greg Paquette and Ryland Kenny's boat about an hour after they spotted the aquatic mammal, immediately launching both men into fight or flight mode after they were thrown into the water. Quote, I heard a big crackle. When that happened, the bow tipped up and I went to the left, and as the boat was rolling over, I kind of jumped off horizontally to avoid the whale and the boat. The last thing Paquette remembers seeing before being thrown into the water was the whale's head, which slammed down on the engine of the boat. Quote, then I saw the whole stern become inundated with water, and I thought, oh no, we're going down. We're going to sink now. They managed to swim away from the swamped boat in a matter of seconds and became very tired after the initial energy and adrenaline wore off. It's been an emotional day, Paquette said. The men stayed in the Jaeger's boat for about 15 minutes. Then the brothers dropped them off at a nearby friend's vessel before the Coast Guard arrived, according to Wyatt Yeager. Paquette and Kenny were transported to Great Cove Boat Club in Elliott, Maine after the breach. All right, so, I mean, that's about enough of that. All right, so the footage is pretty amazing. So here we go. Damn, yo. All right, let's see that again.
Wow. A reactionary whale.
They're nicknaming the whale JD.
JD, yeah, JD. Holy shit. Well, that was good. I mean, it was lucky that there were other boats around.
Yeah, that there happened to be a boat that close.
Yeah.
So what happened? It wasn't, all kidding aside, it wasn't attacking. It was feeding. There was a school of fish there, and that's part of the way they feed. And it just apparently they have a big blind spot, so it probably did not see the boat and just
just a clumsy whale.
Clumsy whale. Yes.
And knocking over that boat. Wow. Yeah, so there's a little light fun for you guys at the end of the week.
My ex, she's in Australia. She sent me over an article. That's a much darker one. So this surfer got his leg bitten off, and then it washed up on shore. They're trying to reattach it.
Oh my God! Oh wow! So they're trying to reattach it?
Yeah, it was bitten off by a great white.
Oh yeah.
That's why when I went to Australia, man, I only went in as far as the little kids went because I was like, they're bite sized. They'll take them first,
right?
And I'll have time to get out.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Half of all immigrants are visa overstays on their student and high tech jobs, says Tana. Thank you, Tana. Could Biden be vindictive enough to sabotage Kamala's presidential run? I don't think so.
I don't think he's cognitively competent enough.
Yeah, well, that too.
Whatever plan he comes up with, he's not going to remember it an hour later.
Yeah, that's right. No, but I think how that got out is I think, some person close to the Biden family thought, they should talk a little shit about Obama publicly for making Joe drop out. That's my guess. Susan Notoka. Trump, genuine interest in controlling border, DEA and CIA just control narco to control Mexican government. Fast and Furious Operation Mexico, U.S. government armed narco. So thank you, Susan. Appreciate that. 2024 revised ticket, Kamala and Pete. Yes, yeah. Some people think it's going to be Pete. I really don't think so.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah. I really don't think so. I think it's going to be either Kelly or Shapiro. I mean, the only reason to pick Shapiro from her standpoint is Pennsylvania is such a must-win that gives you an edge. But you still got to win. This is what I mean. You still got to win everywhere else that you're down. You still got to win Michigan. You still got to win. Once you lose Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, you have to win everywhere else. You can win the election if you win everywhere else besides those states, but you have to win that Nebraska district. You have to win all of the upper Rust Belt states. You have to win Minnesota. You have to win New Hampshire. You have to win New Jersey, which is in play now. Like they have no margin for error whatsoever. And it's impossible. I mean, it's practically impossible to cover that much ground.
Well, especially with what they're going to do. They're going to run a Beyonce campaign.
Yeah,
they're going to do the whole "I'm with her" identity politics bullshit, and that is the last direction you want to go in if you're trying to win over those states.
Yeah, exactly. The whales are fucking sick of us poisoning the sea. First orcas, now this big motherfucker. It's Fudgy the whale in real life. Thank you, Stoop Sign. Appreciate that. Derek P. Whales attacking boats and Sifaka lemurs dancing. The end of times. Yes, thank you, Derek P. Appreciate that. Sparky, Henry Wallace could have been president, yes, instead of Truman, yes. Last 80 years could have been way different, absolutely. 1944 Democrat convention made the difference. Will 2024 Democrat convention be as consequential? Well, no, because there's not going to be a Henry Wallace in the room, in the race. So no, it won't. And it's likely not to matter anyway. I mean, betting odds have Trump at plus, over 60% chance, and I think that's right. We live in New Hampshire. Would love to give you the 411, the info.
Yeah,
thanks,
we're going.
Travis.
My friend
Send us
just
an email.
moved. My friend just moved up there. Is I guess about 20 minutes outside of Manchester.
Okay. Yeah, Guildford is not far from Manchester. Is that where it is? Near Guildford, you said?
It's outside Manchester.
Okay.
I don't remember the name of the town.
Okay.
But
I
yeah,
think Guildford
man,
is
got a
further north.
saltwater
No, Guildford
pool
is near
there.
Maine. That's wrong. I'm
nice.
thinking of somewhere else. Yeah. But no, yeah, it'll be it'll be fun. It'll be fun. I was there in the wintertime, obviously, so didn't get to explore the beaches. Alrighty, folks. Well, that is our show. Thank you guys very much for being here. Thank you for the well wishes on the little one who will be out next time I see you. Unless you're a patron, I'll be stopping by to take some calls on the patron show tonight, hosted by Russell and Tusker. So if you would like to become a Patreon member as a little paternity gift to me, that would be a great paternity gift, is if you would become a Patreon member, patreon.com/DoDissidents. You can also become a paid Substacker, DoDissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals, DoDissidents.locals.com. Any one of those work just great. And if you join, we'll see you tonight at 8 o'clock. And you get all those other perks that we mention all the time as well. So thank you guys all very, very much for being here. I will be seeing you guys irregularly, but I will be seeing you guys from time to time for the next couple of weeks. I will be part of most of the shows in some way, shape, or form. But I turned the keys over to the Dob man here. So best of luck. Don't crash us into a whale. Don't run into any whales out there. Watch out for the whales out there.
We're mostly going to be covering bass fishing, Disney, and communism.
Yeah, there you go. That's what's on the agenda for the next couple of weeks. All right, folks. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate you all. Russ and Tusker, we'll see you back here on Sunday night, 7 p.m. If you're a patron, we'll see you tonight at 8 p.m. Until whenever we see you again, thank you for this morning. Be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.